sometimes it's nice to have a clerk here, it keeps you on task.
That's,
Okay, let me do this.
No, I asked him when he came in. Will Jimmy be here at some point in time, you think?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. I knew he had to leave early, but then he decided, probably got the roads and everything, he probably decided to not leave as late.
Yeah.
So he's in Lancaster, but I think he was gonna go someplace tonight, and he was gonna come for a few minutes, but then. Hi, Karen. All right, so we will probably, for you guys, lead on what part you want to address first, on articles and everything.
Karen, do you have any?
Let's pass out an updated one.
Yeah. Karen, did you bring a revised budget summary thing or?
No, everything's the same as the last time I've given out.
And you don't have a copy of an old one?
I have only my copy. Unless you want to borrow it.
No.
Do you want to pass these out, Andrew?
Yeah, I just had
Give a couple this way.
And when you're talking about the revised proposed, what was the date on that?
The date that I have is printed 12/17/19.
yeah, that's what it was given out the last week.
Probably was the meeting before. This is the newest one. Yeah, it's a moving target.
Okay, I got it.
Because people will come through and say they want more
Is
articles.
this the only one?
It should be almost the same.
Yes.
Maybe before you start, just housekeeping, Diane sent out the minutes for the last meeting.
You know one of those?
There's one revision. Wait, there's the four others, yeah.
The only change I had was, I haven't voted on EMS ambulance 5-year lease, and I had a 4-0 vote on that, and I think it was showing in there in the minutes that we hadn't, the vote hadn't taken place.
Did we vote on the EMS? No, I don't think.
I think we voted on everything except for the EMS part.
Well, that's remember I had the question about what was in the budget, or you said it was no longer in the budget, and then.
I believe you said, but we're gonna need this anyway, we'll need both of these things anyways, the operating budget thing and then
We did?
Yeah.
Okay, good, right, so.
But the question was, I thought that in the warrant article, it was going to say, if this warrant article passes, that the proposed operating budget will be reduced by.
So, yes, you're right, that they came up, and I was gonna check with the select board.
Yeah.
And so, basically, they don't want to include the funds in the operating budget, because if the article was voted down, they're saying, well, no means no, and they don't want to try to backhand fund something.
Okay.
You know, if the voters say no.
Okay, so that's also going to be the referendum.
Yep.
Is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
So if the warrant articles fail, the town is going to be saying, we do not want a town-sponsored ambulance service.
And that was 11?
That's what,
Yeah, yeah. That was.
effectively, and I understand that,
15?
yeah,
Oh.
rationale behind it, obviously.
And that was 4-0?
Yes.
Other than we did have the money that we had in it before for supporting ambulance service. I guess that's the only, see it to an outside, so that would leave us with no funds to,
There would be, unlimited funds. I think we have about 83.
About 83,000 to cover the first part of the year, and that's what's in the proposed budget for ambulance. If the ambulance lease gets approved, that 83 will come out.
the 83 of them, but the 200 something that we would need wouldn't be there. And it would only leave us with $83,000 to make a deal with Bethlehem or somebody to
Yeah.
provide some service to us.
So the amendment would be that we voted on warrant article number 15, a 4-0 vote.
I wasn't there, so
Yes,
We
and
were gonna
I
watch
did, and I
video.
did have that down by,
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
fine.
yeah,
I was probably spacing that.
there was a lot of stuff. Okay, so,
The other one was I did have on 12, that you voted on Article 12 as well, which was the EMS operating budget, and I had that as a 4-0 vote.
I have that down too,
Okay, that's
yeah.
okay.
Okay,
That
so
was
those
on
two.
the sheet too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I got confused because we brought up the other question, so,
That makes sense,
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
okay, so, as far as the minutes, so we can just get that taken
Yeah,
care of.
I will, tonight.
No, no,
Huh?
no, if you want to make an amendment now, and then we'll vote for it.
Yeah, so the two amendments would be for warrant article number 12
Yeah,
was voted on with a 4-0 vote,
Yeah.
and warrant article 15 with a 4-0 vote. And then the other one was that I just took Jim's name off to he wasn't here, so.
okay, so does anybody else have any questions or suggestions about the minutes with those two amendments? So I have a motion to amend the minutes as presented, referencing or adding Articles 12 and 15, and I guess I hope we're staying with those same numbers, Karen. So, okay, 12 and 15 has been approved by a 4-0 vote. Okay, so all those in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, and all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that passes by a 5-0 vote. Okay? Is that it then? Housekeeping, keeping?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Andrew, Karen, then, or you take the...
One housekeeping thing,
Yes.
on this sheet, says updated copy, should read 12:30,
Okay.
not 12:23.
Yeah.
The selectmen did take some vote on some of the items that you already voted on, and that's reflected on the sheet as well.
Yeah.
So as you can see, Articles 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, I'll have 3-0 for the selectmen. Articles 16, 17, 19, 20, and 21, I'll have 3-0. And then because they were involved in the ratification and the negotiations of the union contracts, 22, 23, 24, and 25, I'll have 3-0.
Say again, which
For the
ones?
union contracts,
Yeah.
22, 23, 24, 25,
Which are not reflected here.
it should say 3-0. Oh, it didn't get put on there. But the selectmen did approve those today.
So,
23 through 25, huh?
Yes.
not 22?
22, 22 to 25. So 3-0.
One other note here too, is there's an Article 40 that wasn't on there before. And that's a New Hampshire lottery bill that's gone through, HB 480. And that's enabling legislation. We just got information on it last week. And I'll sit down and email to you, I don't know if you're ready to, the select board is talking about whether or not they want to vote on it. Or just not vote and then talk about it in the session. It's a thing legislation for any type of candidate. And we're told that it has to go on the ballot. And the interesting thing is that because of the way the timing is set in the legislation, you can't have a public hearing on it any more than 30 days before the town vote. But you have to have the ballot set before that time period. So you, in effect, have a vote on this before public input can even be accepted. So I'm not sure if they thought about that when they created the legislation.
No, it's just,
They may have backed their way into it. Yeah. Okay.
Line 35, 37, and 38 on the back side of this were approved by the selectmen 3-0. So they tried to approve the ones that you had gone through already, just trying to get some things done in advance.
so are the numbers with the warrant articles, they have not changed from this, have they?
Yes, they have,
Okay,
because we added number 40,
just number 40.
just number 40, and of course that bumped the other ones down.
Right. So, I don't know if this is housekeeping too. I received an email from Jim, he cannot be here tonight, and he would like his vote reflected. He wasn't here to vote on a lot of the ones that we voted on, but he went through all of the things and he has sent me an email with his votes. I would hope, I'm asking permission, whether or not we can reflect his vote going forward. I don't necessarily want to go back and then add but tonight on those that we do vote on, should I, or do I have permission to tell you what should we have?
Do we
his
have
vote?
any bylaws, regulations, or anything that address that?
I don't think we do, but I know that we've done it once before.
We did this in the past, we had somebody be a proxy for one of the budget committee individuals.
Well, you are essentially the proxy.
I
Right.
am essentially proxy, yeah. But I just wanted to get your permission to discuss it and get your permission. Do we need to vote on that?
We should.
Okay.
So is there a motion to allow Diane to enter Jim's voting on the articles as reflected in the email that he sent to her?
So moved.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess my only hesitation is that he wouldn't be, he wouldn't be here to hear any information or answer the questions. And then, second, I would just say that we would want to just make sure we check with the New Hampshire Municipal Association, see if it's actually legal to do that and approve it.
In defense of Jim, he's defending, but I mean, obviously, he is very detail oriented and he's read the stuff as much more so than the rest of us, so I would feel good about it in that he certainly has been very involved and knows his numbers. But I understand what you're saying too, Ann. I mean, obviously if we had our brothers, we'd have everybody here at the table.
Yeah, if he's not here and say, like, for example, he brought up a number of questions last time, I think that, we gave a lot of answers to them. Some of them, we may have had a little bit of misinformation on, but after providing answers, whether or not his position would have changed, we don't know because he wasn't here. But I would just raise those same concerns that if he's, committed without actually having all the information at hand prior to that.
And part of the reason why I don't want to go back and change any votes is because of that. Going forward, it's probably the same thing, there would be more information for him, but, he's pretty well informed.
But whatever it is, we need to feel comfortable with it, and obviously a no vote would not reflect, that's not, appreciating Jim's knowledge or input, it just would be that we think that we can't go that far. So we have a motion to allow it. We've got discussion on that motion. All those in favor of allowing Jim's votes to be counted, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So is that 5-0?
Yes. It's assuming, as Andrew said,
Yeah.
that it's actually legal to do.
Yes.
So that's the first time you guys do that, right?
Until you find out.
Mr. Chair, that's the first time you guys do that, right?
Maybe
No.
maybe the second
No,
time.
it's the second time.
Because you got the quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You
He's
don't need a
asking,
Jim's vote.
we do not need Jim's vote, but
No, you
we asked, but
Wow.
also I want someone who has been very highly involved in it. I don't want to turn it away either.
Okay.
And it's all pending on whether we can do it, so
Oh, you can do
we
it.
will make note what his votes, and we'll make note on that, okay? We'll have to see if it's legal. I don't know if it's legal.
All right.
All right. Would you guys like to start just in chronological order where we were before, or maybe address department heads who are here if you have some outstanding items on that? If we, for example, we start at 13, we take care of public works.
Okay, good.
Public works are doing this.
Yeah.
So, Article 13, the equipment replacement plan, this was presented, this request for select board's method of moving forward with the 3-year catch-up. We made the year financing, that you can only each year.
Andrew, did you have a chance to have any community discussions?
No, I haven't had a chance to look up holidays. and
That,
everything like that.
that's only my concern because, you know, there was a plan put forward several years ago, and there was considerable community pushback on it.
Well, I would say, so to address that, this isn't the establishment of the fund, this is just this is the purchasing of our equipment this year, the vehicles that we this year, not the establishment of a fund to start setting aside money for future.
Okay, so these are specific vehicles, and the money will be spent on the vehicles that,
We have the 3 vehicles that are highlighted as a priority for this year.
won't change the 3 other vehicles.
Unless something broke down, that was,
But that was part of the concern, is just having that money out there and then,
a lot of good professionals do their job, that's a concern.
well, yeah, well, yes and no. Well, I mean, there've been times in the past where, you know, stuff was voted on and the money went elsewhere, and that was a question of trust in the community. So I'm just bringing that up, just because I don't want to.
I'd say the inverse is true too, trust in your staff to do what we're here to do, and not relying on past mistakes of previous committees or previous employees. We've got a tough job to do it, we need a little bit of trust.
Any discussion on that?
So I mean, that's basically, that's the spreadsheet that
Right.
Karen had presented.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our 3-year plan that I presented to
The 3-year plan of the 9-year plan, or 10, whatever it was,
Yeah,
right?
10-year.
you. Yeah.
It's 3 vehicles this year, we start payments on them next year when the
Next year,
transponder
2021.
Yes,
Yeah.
the transponder drops off. And we can work this out either with a local bank or a leasing company. And the range of interest is running 2 to 4%, depending on which one we go with and which one will be the easiest to work through. And then have it paid off in 3 years. And in 2021, buy some more and set the payments similar to this, trying to level out the payments so at some point they remain pretty constant. There's only one bump, and I don't have my sheet with me, I'm sorry, but I believe it's 2023. There might be a little bump for 2025.
It is, here, I'll hand you this.
I think it's option 2. Look at option 2.
You know, you're way down. Pass that. down. And can you list the equipment that would be the first 3?
This is one of the older ones.
Whoops.
have my breakout.
Oh, okay, sorry.
He, if not, I've got it out in my car.
This isn't.
Can I pull it over?
So we have,
What was that?
we have, 2 dump trucks
Yeah.
and a backhoe for next year.
The ones that broke down?
You'll have to ask.
Yeah, we had 2 of the large dump trucks not pass inspections, yeah. 2 new large dump trucks.
And that was mainly due to rust on the frame and things like that, yeah, pretty much. Okay.
The expected life expectancy in a lot of communities is 5 to 6 years. These are 10 years or older. We have a 2005 on there. We have a 2007 and the excavator is a 2011.
Backhoe.
With that,
Backhoe, I'm sorry. Yeah. Or 2009.
So a 2005 dump truck and a 2007 dump truck and a 2009 backhoe,
That's
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, the bump is 2025, and my calculations to try to do this was to try to make a payment roughly of $350,000 a year for equipment, and anything beyond that would be put into a capital reserve account, which has to be voted on every time we put money into a capital reserve. So every time that we get to a point where there's, say 1 year there's 151,000, and there would be a warrant article for a capital reserve fund deposit of 200,000.
But let's talk about PUSAC, because that's a later discussion when we're talking about PUSAC.
The lease up down here, yes, and that was something that the select board.
But to begin with, to try to do the 3-year catch-up plan, we will have lease payments going right out to 2025. So we'll be buying equipment every year up until 2025.
And we have 515,000 down here.
That is what the TransCanada payment is. So I'm actually looking at, there'll be less going out in payments than what the TransCanada payment was. That's the amount that we're going to lease, is the 515,000 over 3 years.
Okay, but it won't be 515,000 a year.
A year.
And that's where you started ahead
Yeah.
of the game, but I mean, thinking about the portion of that that is not actually spent would be a candidate for going into the.
Could be.
And the question, I think, that came up before was, all the TransCanada, what we're going to not be paying out to TransCanada in the future, that is all focused on equipment. And then I think the question was, what about other infrastructure? Would the select board have a chance to discuss that? I mean, if they're going to use all of that for just equipment, or are they going to try to address other?
I don't believe there's been a decision on it. I don't believe that they discussed it. We discussed today about the 500,000 and some recommendations that were given us on that, but
I mean, the answer to that, I would say we're working on our CIP. The CIP is set to be updated for next year with using the funds for the operating budget. That'll give a clear picture of what has to be done infrastructure-wise. But I would say what's suffered over the past period while we've made room for the day and night is our equipment. The equipment's gone on to the back burner. This is the tools we absolutely need to do the job that we're supposed to do. So.
Well, I totally understand that. However, you know, there would be some monies, I guess, coming out of the regular operating budget from warrant articles that we approved in the past that were for equipment, basically. So if we're focusing what you were just saying, $350,000, we could still have some above and beyond
We have-
300.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all
And
right.
there would be some savings, hopefully, to pass on to the taxpayers.
But the use of it to give it, if we wanted to look at the long-range planning of the fund, I think that's where the discussion comes down to the articles to set up the capital reserve funds.
Okay. All right.
And the TransCanada is not 515,000. The payment on the TransCanada is 465,664 in 2020. So if the payments on this are 351,000, this does not include the interest, of course. This is only the principal portion of that. There should be a little bit of wiggle room in there.
I guess I'm just voicing a concern that we take a look at all of all the needs in the community, equipment and infrastructure. Because we have suffered in both areas because of the dam.
I would say that's what we do. Then we do that year round. We work with engineers, whether it's the sewer system or whether it's, we'll be working really closely with CIP project as well.
Just have a personal concern. So that really isn't 515,000.
That's the loan amount.
Okay.
And we show it as zero because there is no tax impact next year. There will be in 2021 and 2022.
Will that be stated in the warrant article?
I will make sure it gets stated. If DRA does not take it out or attorneys don't take it out. I'll
Because
put-
I think it's misleading if someone's no tax impact, and then they go, they're not thinking down the road, or they're not realizing down the road that they're gonna be paying for this. So I'm hoping there's some kind of reference to it in the warrant article.
On a point like you and I discussed before about just so many more articles, an attorney recently was responding on one of the things we were working on. They were even saying, why are you asking voters to approve the equipment that we use? This should just be in the operating budget. It's just part of being a SB 2 town is that you have autonomy of government, you have a professional running the difficult decisions in the day, and just have an expectation that way through the budget, the tools you use, just like that.
I think if there is a history of the voters approving approximately, that will be there. And then down the road, the discussion is, do you move to the operating budget?
Right now,
If it has to be a lease at this, under the current laws,
You have to put
we
it in
have
the
to put it
article.
in the warrant article. Or if it's a bond, we have to.
All right. Do we want to vote on that?
So Article 13, as explained. All those in favor of supporting Article 13, Public Works lease/purchase, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Jim says aye, too. So that would be how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I just want to be the same as Karen over there. Because Steve doesn't vote.
So you're including Jim?
I couldn't.
And I'm making a note that we have a proxy of one, so that if I had to
Back it out.
pull that.
Yeah, next up is Dell's Dam. So we had money for engineering to completely replace Dell's Dam. It was, I think, the warrant article maybe from 2013 or 14. I don't know if you remember the year.
It was on 2013, and then it had to be re-voted on because it went back to fund balance because nothing was happening with it. It was re-voted on in 2016, I believe, And it just went back to fund balance because there was no activity on it. So we ended up putting back in to fund balance because of it, $105,000.
And so this one is proposing that we could use 20, take it out of fund balance. We had started work with an engineering firm, and they basically were on the mission of a complete replacement of Dell's Dam, which was, I think, under $1 million, pretty significant. After meeting with some members of the community, they suggested that a broader public discussion take place to decide the future of Dell's Dam. The replacement could actually be done for much, repair could be done for much cheaper, is what we were told. And then also there's some support to actually just remove Dell's Dam. And since it's been there for so long, we wanted to be able to have some kind of a public input process so people could voice whether they wanted to repair it or have it removed. What this is some of the preliminary engineering costs, take a look at those options.
So this is for a discussion later on, after you get the preliminary cost and what the project will entail, then you will have a public hearing.
Right.
And that would probably be done prior to next year at this time?
That'd be our goal.
Yep, I'll be in charge of the project. So we want to work with the same consultant and basically update, refresh the information that they've worked on previously and go through a community process with either hearing or community public meetings and opportunity to get input on,
Because if the dam were eliminated, it's either will either eliminate or greatly diminish the pond. Well,
Yeah.
turn it back to a stream.
So the two sides I heard were two members of the Conservation Commission who were prominent community members who both had opposing sides. One was saying, look, it would be nice to remove the dam, it's better for the fisheries. And another one said, no, look, this is a place where kids fish. And after that, after quite a bit of that, we decided let's put this to the plan.
And the last quote was about 2 or 3 years ago, it was $850,000.
And that was for a complete rebuild. That's when I said, okay, well, like, do we really need to rebuild this or can we do a repair? And then I brought it to the Conservation Commission to talk about it. And so I figured out this wasn't something everybody was one way or the other.
Yeah, part of it too, the concern on that was because of the damage of the flooding that it did to Pat Bildo's home. I mean, that was part of it, I think. That was one of the reasons why it needed to be repaired. Do you remember when
I
the
remember
house was
on the
flooded?
Dulles Road, in the
Yeah.
backyard or whatever.
Yeah, completely right next to Union Bank, the house right next to Union Bank. Just
Did a breach.
breached, yeah. And so, part of the reason, so that definitely will impact whether or not we do it.
Impacts. I think that Du Bois and King had already gotten far enough to look at impacts of the dam.
Okay.
As long as that could be the TVA right there.
So we're pulling back 20,000 from fund balance, so there's no tax impact.
So, I have a motion to vote on the Dulles Dam engineering work.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jim is voting yes on that.
Next up would be the infrastructure of Broomstick Hill Road. This is a project, I think it was presented before by Doug about the 75% funded by FEMA. If the project is not approved, we will lose those funds. And
Which one are you on now?
This is Article 18.
Okay, so you're jumping,
Yeah,
We
because
did
you've
that.
already approved 16, 17,
Right.
and 15. So you see blue lines? We tried to
yeah,
bring those out, so
Here.
yeah, okay.
seal side here.
For her. So, so explain that again, Andrew, I'm sorry.
So this is a FEMA project. We had a number of FEMA projects that were done in repair. I believe this is a mitigation. Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, this is under the mitigation program, meaning that it's to fix potential for future issues.
Well, this is for the damage that was done.
The damage already done.
2007.
So is there further repair to be done?
No, it's just restoring what was damaged.
Restoring what was damaged.
Mhm.
So this is a,
No improvements beyond, just back to status quo.
so but it still needs, the work still needs to be done.
Correct. That's a good word.
They won't give us the funds until we say we're gonna start working on it. And we need additional funds to continue
So you
our
need
portion.
It's a reimbursement,
44,000.
correct? It's a reimbursement.
It will be a
If
reimbursement.
you want to describe what they're working,
It's basically re-graveling the road. I forget the length of it. It was a pretty good, over a mile, I believe, of new gravel. I don't remember the specifics on that.
But the re-graveling raises the road
Correct,
vis-a-vis the ditches.
correct. And ditching is part of it as well. Some of the work we've completed with our crews.
Lower the ditch, raise the crown.
Exactly.
culverts.
Don't recall if there's culverts or not. Probably, that's likely.
Otherwise it goes,
If it's voted against, voted down, we can't do any work to that road.
We use the money.
Right. We lose the $104,721 that they have on hold for us.
And do people live on that road, and is it, I imagine it's difficult?
Yep. It's one of our most difficult out-of-town roads,
it is,
especially for them.
Nice ride on a Friday night in summer.
Yeah.
it really
Take the
is.
mud season. You actually close it down, fortunately, during that season.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 18 infrastructure improvement on Broomstick Road?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jim says yes.
Okay. Okay, next is 22,
22,
SEA Union.
yes.
Do you, SEA Union, that's,
The SEA is the police department.
do we want to go since, do we want to, I'm sorry, we have infrastructure, do we want to continue with the road while Doug is still here, or do we want, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the union contracts?
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yep.
Would be a good idea, okay. So that moves us to
26.
26, Riverfront Commons land purchase. Dunk the floor, George.
Actually, I'm not-
Oceanfront
Yeah,
property?
if you
This
want.
is Andrew's,
This is oceanfront property in Arizona.
Maybe that's what it
That's
is.
a song.
Yeah.
So this is the riverfront park area, which is the currently rural land that the town has a lease on. It's 7 acres. We have $450,000 in grant money right now. We potentially have a private donation of somewhere between 100 and 200,000 right now. And this would be the remaining funds needed for the grant match to be able to move forward with the project, purchase the land, and build, construct additional parking, and just do some basic improvements to the project.
No pavilion yet.
Well, so there's a development from the Plan New Hampshire charrette where Conservation Commission and a number of entities come forward and said they'd like to see the land have diversity of use without actually having a permanent pavilion in place. So when we get to the point of constructing the full project, we will look at engineering different ways to put in a pavilion, like for example, a tent pavilion or posts, and there's a maybe mounting places for posts, or maybe concrete could be subsurface. tried to look at it. They want this, all the public input was to keep it as open as possible, but still be able to have the electrical and everything needed to do concerts. We're also looking at turning that barn right there into a welcome center for tour buses, and a place to park tour buses, because people come on. So, but all that still has to be hashed out. What we're really trying to do right now is to be able to secure the land and be able to leverage the grant money so that we don't lose that.
So that's 27 cents on the tax rate.
And this would be matched basically by 500,000. More, probably 600,000.
Say that again, Andrew.
This would be matched by the grant money, the 250 Northern Borders grant, 200,000 Land Water Conservation Fund, and then we're in talks with a couple of community members who are looking at potentially donating somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 on top of that.
So it's one of those difficult situations where if you don't put in a little public money, you lose all the rest of it.
Right. Yeah.
They want us to have some skin in the game.
That's right.
Okay, so is there a motion to support 26? Or do you have a question, Diane?
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm already starting to like shake over
Yeah.
here. Sorry. I'm just looking at the overall tax impact, and, you know, over the years, we've always said, all of these are great ideas. However, when you collectively put them together, sometimes it's just a little too much for one time. So we have certain things that we're trying to do to, you know, bring everything up to speed on the infrastructure and also on the equipment. And then new cruisers in here, new police officer, we have different positions in the operating budget. And this is 27 cents. I won't push back, you guys just push back. 27 cents out of the proposed increase of 86 cents, right?
Yes.
Am I reading that right?
87 cents.
87 cents. So 27 cents out of the 87 cents.
A third.
A third of it. Okay. I don't, just, you guys tell me where we should be going with this. Because as much as I would love to do that, I love all the improvements. I love how things are going down there. I'm also trying to find a balance of people that would compare. And so I guess I would say I would be for this. However, I would hope that the selectmen go in and look at that 87 cents and say, make some decisions. This is where I go, I hope I don't have to be the one that's really making the decisions on this, because I think 87 cents is probably too much. We all go into a panic next year when we're setting the tax rate. We all say, oh, okay, we have to take so much money out of the reserve account, all of that, yeah. And this, we all go crazy. And we're all trying to keep the taxes down. And I'm going, well, this is the time that we keep the taxes down. We make the decisions now. And then next year, we don't have to be, nervous about what the tax is going to be.
Or
Help me
we're
here.
hoping for some huge surplus,
Help
found
me
money,
here.
and it won't be that bad.
I mean, that's, this,
I mean, that's a good point. One thing I'll say is, there will be guaranteed surplus money coming from the state, the amount of, what is that?
122,000.
That
That's included into our revenues.
has to go, yes.
Yes.
The only other thing I would say is that we have an expiring lease purchase agreement with the owner, who's been very generous, but the property will be for sale if we don't do that. And there are other commercial entities, and I mean, if the taxpayers would rather that be developed, it would be an awesome site for condos. And I know there's other groups who are interested in purchasing it. It's really up to the vote. We would throw away the grant money that we've been awarded. I would also say it might make it more difficult for us, but really it's all our choice. It's probably make it more difficult for us to go after those grant funds for future projects. The northern borders, we've used the northern borders so far since I've been here for the Spoke Bridge, which didn't only cost the taxpayers any money. Down Bridge Street, which this is part of that project, the original got that. We've also received northern borders money for the rail trail project, which is still pending. And we've granted 3 extensions, which was out of our hands for that.
See, I totally understand all of that, but I'm still going back to the 87 cents. 87 cents that I don't want to be the one to make the decision.
I agree with you, because if you don't have the money, don't spend it. And if we're already having to raise the taxes, then there's no money there. If we were coming in where we could lower the taxes a little bit, for some whatever reason, because we don't have to spend $500,000 on a backhoe and a couple trucks and this and that, then I'd say, all right, buy something extra. But you don't have the money. There's no money there to buy that.
Somebody wants to put up condos?
That's more taxes.
Yeah.
More power to them.
I'd say there are other entities who are interested in purchasing it. I'm not the River District Committee, this is their proposal, so.
You mentioned a welcome center possibly in the future. Well, there was some discussion a few years ago about the annex here and that, updated and as a welcome center.
Yeah, that is almost $1 million project, isn't it?
What's that?
The annex.
Yeah. I mean, this is almost $1 million project too.
Why
It's just
not?
that we have most of it funded.
No, I'm,
It could be, yeah. And you have to think about bus turnarounds. This is also parking is something I get so many complaints about. This increases the parking, it creates an event space that will then generate, we already see the activity that's starting to take place in the River District, in the Main Street when an event happens. There was an event this summer which was the guy from the Grateful Dead did a concert. It was in collaboration with Catamount Arts. And you bring in so many people who are, basically some of the support the additional growth and development. And as far as this, increasing the tax rate, one thing to keep in mind is that these numbers, these tax increases are always based on a flat, as if nothing has happened, it's a zero-sum game. And so,
as far as enhanced tax revenue from new properties.
right, so any of them, then in fact, properties that are added right now aren't even included in this. So, the Canadian MD is an example. And we also have a process that will be in place for more meadows, for making more meadows for that activity on a more valuation increase there. But that's not included. This is all.
But that doesn't mean go spend money that we don't have. Just because it's not on the tax roll yet.
I mean, it's up to you. I would say if you vote this down, this is a good leveraging of a lot of outside funds, and it's something that, it's not something that has to be done. But I would say if you're concerned about maintaining the success of Littleton downtown and River District, I'd say that this is a critical piece of that next step. And
I'd rather spend $100,000 on equipment and infrastructure than possibilities of other stuff.
Well, okay, I'm always on the opposite side of the table on this, because I think at the very first meeting, we should go over our growth. And we didn't go over our growth this year at all, the different categories that we've talked about, that pie chart of where we get our taxes and where the growth has been. And I've always supported the industrial park because I know that it eventually brings jobs and it eventually brings businesses, which ups the tax base. I think this would help the tax base, but it's 27 cents of 87 cents, or is it 27?
Yeah.
And I just, with all the other stuff that we're trying to do, I don't know if this is the year for it. And so you're saying that we would lose everything thus far. We've had an extension for 3 times already.
on a previous one. This northern borders, we had an extension on that. The Rainwater Conservation Fund is a 3-year program. I don't remember the date of when we were, it wasn't this past, it was the year before. We'd be probably into our 3rd year in the fall. So, we have, it's hard. Just, I would say the leveraging is really something more than that, and then just a discussion with the property owner to see if they'd be willing to even extend the offer. But extending the lease is also a 3-year, the lease was supposed to line up with the landwater conservation plan.
Okay, still not.
I know. Okay, good points, obviously, on both sides.
Here's some anecdotal stuff, and I don't know if it's at all relevant, but it really.
Oh, try it, John.
Really struck me at the school. What is the town budget? 12 million?
No, no, 9,
It depends on if you just count
It
the
depends
town
on,
budget.
yeah, okay.
Like all the
Okay.
petition warrant articles, for example, go out of.
Yeah, if you added all the articles, you're
And-
probably talking 12 million.
And separately, the school budget is 15 and a half? Is that accurate?
Somewhat, yeah,
16,
somewhat.
yeah,
16.
right around 16 is what it's been.
So there are 5,800 residents in Littleton, and just use round numbers, that's all the services we get for $2,000 a piece. There are 671 students in the school, so it costs us $23,000 for each of them. So, as I said, I don't know if there's
Oh, yeah.
any relevance to this at
Oh,
all,
it
but I
is.
think
Well, I
we're
will-
getting a whole lot for not a whole lot of money, you know, on an individual citizen basis.
Right, and I've always said that, when they talk about the schools and everything, they always say, well, it's our children. And I always say, well, so are the police, and so are the fire, so is the playground, so is everything else. That's for our children too. So is the industrial park, because that's where the children's parents can work. And, so I understand what you're saying, but we're trying to kind of keep it together on this, and,
I mean, if I just add one more thing, if you take a look at Saranac Avenue 6th Street, the project isn't completed yet, but in going after the grant funds, one of the things that was done was the jobs analysis, and based on some formula they had, they predicted 500 jobs. Remember that presentation? Some people, considered it kind of laughable to create 500 jobs. But we just had to do an update on a EDA grant for that area, and there's been 120 jobs created since we did Saranac Avenue project. And then the property valuation increase has been significant. You see projects down there that took place and would not have taken place if the town hadn't begun investing in the infrastructure. The studio school, science center building, 23 acres, for example. And there's additional.
Central building survive.
And there's additional investment that's going to be taking place in the middle building next door to it's out of a legal liability issue. And then also now the property owner, BCI, just starts to spin off a lot more activity than just the money that you're putting into the infrastructure. So, when you're looking at, this $175,000, it definitely represents a lot more than just 175. It's not just that parcel, it will impact everything around it. So you will see additional results. That's my pitch. And I wish John was here because he could talk through the project a lot better.
well, table it and have vote on it later. I mean, I don't, but that is my,
Well, yes, and obviously the fact that it's a third of the increase,
yes.
I mean, that's where a chunk is, so a valid point. So,
I don't know. This one's a hard one for
it
me.
is,
Would you like to table it and I'll get John to show up for the future?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be.
can I ask, this is for a sentimental show of hands, who would be, if we were voting today, who would be generally in favor of it?
Sorry, Andrew. Have it
No,
back.
no, okay, no, so two yeses, two unsure, and
And Jim would go for it.
Jim would go.
I think we need more information, and I think maybe the River District Committee needs to hear our concerns. Maybe that's 27 cents, I mean, that's a lot on,
If you don't have money, you can't spend it. It's the bottom line. Bible says don't be indebted to any man either.
huge.
Did he
So
mention
that's the reason
banks?
why it's like,
Yeah, I
back
don't
and
use
forth.
it.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, okay, but all good discussion, all good points, and
We'll get
And Andrew,
John.
yes, I mean, it's good stuff.
This is one of those where, you know, you want to use your foresight and you want to
Right.
think about, you know, all these things that Andrew's been saying about what the potential, real positive effect of this could be. Not guaranteed, but could, you know. The River District is one of the real gems of this town, I would say.
And
right?
which then begs the question a little bit, what's happening with the Eaton property?
I think it was brought on to become a school, right?
No,
No,
No.
it was athletic fields, but schools were a possibility. But 30 years ago, there was a very contentious fight, a good, honest fight, but a very contentious fight to buy 100 acres of land, which is referred to as the Eaton property, which adjoins the Pest House property, which is roughly 12 acres of Littleton-owned land. And that was under the old format where we voted for it right on the school floor. We got it passed, but it was very, very tight vote. You know, the town of Littleton, once we own a piece of land, that's a piece of land that could very well be sold off that would have greater economic positive impact for the town of Littleton. When Littleton owns something, we're very, very hard pressed to ever consider selling. But that is something, but then that has great potential for a high-end housing building lots.
So I did present it to a high-end home developer, and their hesitation, they said they would do a project there because of the approach, the homes on the approach, and even timberlands and stuff was, because our zoning doesn't require certain facades, like there's homes that don't have steps up to the front door. They said it was just unacceptable to them have that as an approach to the type of homes they want to build up there. But with that said, that doesn't mean there can't be something in between. Right now, the master plan is being redone, and the master plan with what's that land use. And I'm just gonna check with the people preparing it to make sure that they include that as one of their review parameters.
Because as I'm hearing this discussion, those are town assets that are, you know, have value that very well could be redirected, if you would, into this project. That would be a net gain for the town. I'm not talking about giving it away by any stretch of imagination, but I mean, that's, and I'm not sure whatever lane you're talking about, but I mean,
So there's multiple accesses.
yeah, there's at least 3.
Yeah, there's Timber Lane, and that was the best entrance, but they said that it wasn't up to the level where they would need it to be. And there was another one that had some other more low-end housing, and you know, I said, well, I think just buy them all up.
Yeah.
No guarantee that they buy it all. You know,
In Sampson Road.
Samson. Which
Do we still have a Sampson Road?
one? Could be. But,
Yeah, okay,
We
well.
went over, there was, you know,
Sampson Road is, I mean, well,
there's a handful there, yeah, that.
yeah, well, I mean, Sampson Road, we still call it Sampson Road. And then you have, well, we were gonna build a school up there, Diane, you were concerned about the grade, that's off of,
Hillside, or Hill, whatever it is, Hillside.
no, the other end, not Hillside, off of
Oh, Whitman Woods?
Richmond Street.
Richmond Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. But Richmond and Sampson are the 2 main access points. But Hill Street, you could also go off of Hill Street.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely something that can be done. One of the things that they showed too was the fact that the town owns it, it could help, help alleviate some of the risks of the developer, because the town actually holds the lots, whereas the developer, you know, would have to have that upfront. Anyways, they had a big, before they actually had a site visit, they had a big discussion about ways that they could partner with the town to make it attractive as a development. Right now, I think there's a bit of a difficult situation. I mean, Andy Smith has talked about where construction costs in this area are really high, and yet the housing stock is also low. But it's not at the market prices are not the point where new construction, just straight up new construction makes a lot of market sense.
So going back to this thing right here, so I'm just hoping that they can maybe sharpen their pencils a little bit, because 27 cents is a lot, but is that number fixed? Is that what we need to, as a town, say yes to in order? I mean, is there a percentage that we have to come up with? Is that how we get that number?
Well, there's grant match. It really is not a percentage of the total dollar value. We need to actually be able to purchase the property and do the improvements. And I think that was around, it's around 800,000, if I remember right, to get to that level. So, yeah, we have the 450, I have a budget for the estimated budget for the project. 450 is 175, and then I think there was a $200,000 private donation. And,
Because in essence, this is the other question I have, in essence, we have this piece of property, and just kind of reflecting on what they're going through on the school side about the Greenwood property, if people see 175,000 and then they realize that we're putting all this other money, grant money, and a private donation into it, and the property is not just the property, it's improvements to the property, but we don't know how much the property itself would cost us. And it's 175,000 is not what it would cost us to purchase that property. It's all this other. So people may say that's too much for that piece of property. So I think there has to be a lot of information that comes back out.
So the amount is a negotiated amount. We have the property owner had a commercial appraisal of the property done, and in the lease purchase agreement, it says that we will purchase the property from we have the first right of refusal to purchase the property from the owner within range of the commercial appraisal. So he's had his commercial appraisal done, and we'll have our own others move forward. But the real purchase price is between $400,000 and $500,000. It's a 7-acre parcel. Property on the river district has significantly increased since we started the project. So,
I think we should buy it because you're not really indebted, because it's worth more than what you're paying. And the Littleton taxes are already ridiculously low compared to the surrounding area. And the town would own it. It makes sense to buy it, especially if it's worth more than what we're paying. Because I'm going by just because we have to raise the taxes, but even if you raise the taxes are still low. I have multiple properties in this town, so I'm going to be paying more than the average person, and I'm fine with it now, coming up with that number. Plus, I know Andrew's led by the Spirit, so yes, believe it or not. So I think there's something good in that. I really do.
But we can't look at it as a long-term investment or something, just the value of the property, because you're doing it for a specific purpose.
I'll bring, if you guys don't mind, I'll bring John.
Do you guys want to vote on it tonight?
No, I prefer to.
Don't let me be celibate.
Oh, Diane.
Oh, gee, you follow back here.
Okay, all right, we have much other stuff to do, so, okay, so great discussion on that, all good points, and, but we will, come back to that. Okay, so next one for Doug, will be the Rochers parking lot improvements, is that right, or which one do you want to move to? Parking lot improvement?
If I remember,
Yeah.
this is the money that we would be using to begin doing the engineering design of improvements to the parking lot. So we're about to purchase the barn at 17 Hillview Terrace. After that's purchased, we're trying to find somebody who will take it from our paying the land for. And then what we'll have to do is, once we start touching the pavement, it's not as simple as just doing an overlay. We have to bring it up to ADA standards. So we'll be engineering traffic movements, pedestrian movements, lighting. There's also requests for certain types of security back there. And then also the storm drain, stormwater runoff. We'd likely try to include also any like signage improvements and then potentially landscape improvements with possibly the inclusion of rain gardens that we did elsewhere, which lessens the load on the storm drains, but also you can pre-treat your stormwater runoff in parking lots, go on a
everybody know the barn we're talking about, Jack's Junior parking lot, if you would,
Yeah.
behind what used to be Jeremiah's. Does that name rings a bell to anybody? Paul, you never had to go to Jeremiah's, did you?
I remember Jeremiah.
Fondly.
I never went there, though.
Well, I don't
I was
know.
gonna say, you're too young.
I am.
And just that, there was a parking study, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the parking study was done over a course of about a year using some federal highway monies. And it came up with a list of recommendations that the town pursue and gave us priorities on what we should do. So we do have a parking problem in town, and this was one of the next steps to move forward. The voters approved $50,000 last year for the purchase of this barn. They were asking 97, we were able to negotiate it down to 50. So it's just the next step in the project. We can
Thank you.
Somebody happens.
Okay, all right, so everybody feel comfortable with what we're voting on?
And this 15,000 specifically would be used for just the
Engineering studies?
workaround that you just described.
We have other parking lots too that need improvements, and if we didn't use all the money there, we would use them there. So, for example, we have 2 long-term leases with banks. We were able to negotiate a deal to lease bank property from Mascoma for $1, which is across the street. And then a parking lot on Clay Street behind Union Bank for $1. And so part of the agreement with those is that we maintain them, so, we plow them, but then those ones are in tough shape too. They've been neglected for a while. More so the one behind Mascoma. Eventually we'll need to do some lighting and improvements also.
So moved.
Okay,
Question.
so, yes, okay, so a motion to approve, or well, motion to vote on Article 28 parking lot improvements. I have a motion.
So moved.
So, a second, Don, okay, any further discussion on 28? All those in favor of 28, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
So it's 6, Jim is voting for this.
This is a standard warrant article project in the council's history of doing regular road improvement projects. And we went through and did some estimating through the contractors. The reason, just let me talk about the streets first. We have Far Hill and South Street identified. I know the warrant article is written where we can use funds on other roads as well if funds are available. But Far Hill was a road that was actually identified last year and was intended to be funded in last year's road improvement warrant article, but ended up getting cut out because of the cut down in the budget. I think we reduced the budget down to $350,000 last year. And so I'm trying to bring funding back for that project for this year. And then South Street is just, as you folks know here, I'm new to Littleton, so I'm still learning all the roads, but South Street's a pretty heavily traveled, kind of cut through or cut across road from Industrial Park over to Cottage. And we did a little paving on it this year, some shading on it to get one of the worst areas, but we'd like to come through and do a more comprehensive shim and overlay. We're looking at sidewalk rehabilitation and possibly sidewalk extension.
Doug, any possibility of getting rid of the dog leg?
What?
The dog leg in that road?
Where south turns to Riverside?
No, halfway down South Street, where we have all the accidents in the wintertime.
There aren't a lot of accidents.
Not a lot. People must have been adjusting to the situation. But there was, I mean,
Is there there's a little street that comes off there that you're talking about?
well, yeah, it's almost like a Y, but
Yeah.
people tend to get going a little too fast and then realize they have to make a decision. Shane, you, right?
I don't go fast on that road because I live on that road.
Yeah,
I know
right.
what you're talking
Yeah.
about. They always come in your lane.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
yeah.
So really we need a little curve in the road, is that what you're?
Well, I think there could be a
More than
little,
a Y?
well, I don't know what the answer is, but I just know it's not a real comfortable
Right.
situation. But Paul, that has not been a issue of recent years.
There's not enough accidents there to really argue a change, but I can certainly understand what you're talking about, having driven that. And he's right, people tend to be in your lane when you try to turn that corner. We're just lucky. I think it's traveled enough by local people that they probably know what to expect when they hit the corner.
Yeah, go on the sidewalk.
I mean, changing the road along like that obviously may impact properties and
Oh, yeah.
require property acquisition. So that wasn't intended with this project, but it's not something, we can definitely take a look at it.
Because I think that's actually been more of an issue than what you're talking about when you get into the Soup Bowl down over the railroad tracks or whatever, which might think to be more problematic, but people seem to negotiate that pretty well.
How is it determined, how is the road work prioritized? Who determines which is the most serious?
Well, one of these is a carryover from last year, and it was actually identified in our, we have a roadway plan that was, I think our last one was dated 2010. It's a bit outdated, but the Far Hill project was part of that plan. It's just a matter of when is the right time when funding is available. So that's the case with Far Hill. South is more of a practical.
We're planning on updating.
Yeah, it's one of my tasks to update the road plan.
I got a chuckle out of, was it 2 years ago when we had the warrant article to repair Foster Hill Road and other roads? And I, of course, being the cynic that I am, I thought since Skylar Sweet was the select person, that's why that road got. But I want Partridge Lake Road fixed.
I believe there was a petition warrant article, wasn't it, for Foster Hill?
Yes, it was.
And for history
So
on,
they can be political.
for history on this road stuff, Karen, I mean, for the last 20 years or better, this has typically started off as a $500,000 warrant article, and more times than not, it ended up getting whittled down to $300,000,
Right.
which there's your 175 feet.
I know, thank you, please.
So
But-
it's a cut area.
Sorry,
Cut
Doug.
area.
They talk about being cynical, but yes, that is, yeah. But we all know that there's work to be. But the one good thing that we have smartened up on though is that we do have the language in there, so if the path takes us in a different direction, no pun intended, that we're able to do it is,
We have other roads.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not wedded to the,
If there was extra savings left, or some emergency come up, we do have that capability of using it on another road if we had to.
okay? Any further discussion on 29? A motion to approve 29?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving 29, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
6-0.
Doug, this is you again?
Yep, go to number 30. Again, this is also a road improvement project, but we went ahead and pulled it out separately because it is a retaining wall. It was brought to my attention from my crew that we had a situation where we had a retaining wall starting to lean and indicate failure. And it's a fairly short wall. It's in the front yard of a home on West Goose Street, I believe. But it's one that supports the road, and if that wall were to fail, then we'd have an unsafe situation. So we had a contractor look at it, give us a price. It's kind of it's a stacked stone wall, and we talked to the property owner. We're trying to look for the most affordable solution for this one, and he's willing to just do more of a sloped rock retaining wall, not an actual stacked mortar type wall. Trying to keep the cost down. So I went ahead and included that as a $10,000 warrant article.
Do we consider gabions here at all? I mean, does that make any sense to you?
I have not considered it, and I haven't seen it used a lot.
What was the question,
California,
John?
we did in California.
Yeah.
What's the question again?
It's just a wire basket full of rock, and you put one basket on top of the other and wire it all together.
I was gonna
This would be
ask,
similar construction to that. It just won't have a wire.
but But Doug, what we did on South Street, adjacent to the railroad station, little girl, whatever, yeah, I mean, and which we've done a few other
That's an
places.
engineer routine now.
Yeah, that's right. And those have proven to be quite successful and quite resilient. They,
Yeah, and quite expensive.
oh, and expensive.
Yeah, they are expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ready Rock product is, I mean, the one at Partridge Lake that we just did is the same product.
Yeah.
That's a good solution.
And those are engineered wall and they're more expensive. This project would be a lot more expensive to use.
Right. And you
I mean,
have.
we're only talking wall that's as tall as this table.
And so you've got the room to do it, and,
Yeah.
and what you would be doing would take up more space laterally, but
Right.
be very
We talked to the
resilient.
property owner and they're good with it and we're trying to do the most economical way we can.
School streets.
We should stop talking about it.
Yeah. There you go, it's small.
All right, here we go.
Okay, yes. Okay, so is there a motion to support Article 30, West Spruce Street retaining wall? I hear a motion.
So,
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of supporting Article 30, West Spruce Street retaining wall replacement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jim, yes.
And Doug, are you here for something else?
Yeah, the union contract and that was just, it's all Sarah.
So do you want to do the capital reserve funds for the public works, fire department, and police?
The general concept?
The concept is, one, we have to open it. And we could open it with $100. Reasonably, $1,000, given the budget and of course the expenditures. A thought today was passed by Andrew and the selectmen of using $1,000 for each one of these from the fund balance account. It does not make a huge effect on the tax rate, but it is a way of hopefully getting it established so it's a start. Now, there's a couple different ways these can be written. One is that the selectmen can have the authority to expend out of them, or the other is to have the legislative body have the authority, which is town meeting.
To expend out or to put in or both?
They would need to do both. You can't put money into a capital reserve fund without having town meeting vote on it.
Okay, so that's legislative body
That
regardless.
is, right.
Okay.
To draw money out, it could be either way. And I feel whatever the support of the budget committee would be is probably what the selectmen would support. But I can't answer for that. But
Do you want to table these until I further community review? Because I haven't had a chance to do that.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to have any unexpected pushback. That's just my question. I just want to make sure that we have some people buying into this, that it's a good thing and that.
I know Jim mentioned, he felt, at least he mentioned to me, that he felt having the community vote on it, at least to start with, until they felt that it was used for what they felt it should be, that he was in support of this.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a valid point. If you're looking to build trust.
Well, the other thing too is that we know from the school side what happens to these accounts. And they always ask for like 15,000 or 10,000 from the unexpended funds at the end of the year to go into the capital reserve account. The school board has the authority to expend from these funds. And they have, in the past, spent from these funds without really notifying the public or really saying, you know, what the project is. And sometimes you want them to have a little leeway like that, but on the other hand, you also have to have trust. So right here you have $1,000 and that it doesn't seem to be very much. The other issue on the school side is when they say up to, actually they do a lot more, it's like 50,000, isn't it?
Yeah,
50,000?
and the other strange thing, which
Yeah.
makes no sense, the article is written to authorize to contribute up to 50,000, but then it ends up being 50,000, and the answer is this DRA or whatever is telling them that it can't be less than 50. Which
No,
makes no sense at all, because
if
the
you
language
have-
specifically says up to.
Up to, so we were asking, and so maybe this is the conversation that we're kind of looking at this right now. We asked, okay, so if the town and the school were in a pinch, or yeah, the town and the school were in a pinch at the end of the year, let's say we had some disaster, and we had unexpended fund balance of X amount of dollars, this is on the school side. And those warrant articles, the voters gave approval in March, and let's say something happened after that. And we said, well, can you know, instead of putting the 50,000 in, can you put 25,000 in? And they said, no, DRA says if you have 50,000 in the unexpended fund balance, at the end of the year, you have to put the full amount in that the voters said up to. So that's the question that we also had
Yeah.
later on, okay? So who has the authority to determine at the end of the year if there's only so much in the unexpended fund balance, how much go into these?
Yeah, I think I can answer. So
Okay, good.
with these, specifically, the money that goes in has to be approved at town meeting. So the select board would not have the authority to take out of reserve fund balance and dump it into this, I don't believe.
Well, they do up to 1,000. They would up to 1,000.
Well, no, here, because this is the authority right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you're right, this
Yeah.
is the authority. So what would happen is, this is where we started having a discussion earlier about that equipment replacement plan. So the goal really would be that there would be warrant articles
Every year.
every year. As the debt comes off from those vehicles, we would be asking the voters to put in an amount.
But to Diane's point, okay, we do this $1,000, okay? So under the
But
school
you-
scenario, if you have any money unexpended, you have to put in the 1,000, you can't put in 500. Okay, that's,
That's what we're asking. If you're in a tight bind
yeah.
next
Right.
year,
And
what
then,
happens?
so next year, we have an article to put in 50,000, and we have surplus, or unexpended funds, whatever you want to call it. And so then you have to put in the 50, even though the article says up to.
Up to, and let's just say
Yeah.
you have something disaster happens, and you need as much, or 50, or whatever,
Yeah.
some of it. But
It-
they're
it-
saying, the school's saying, the DRA says we have to put all of it.
Yeah.
So
If it's
The-
there,
Yeah,
they
that
can
the
put it
up
all
to,
in.
meaning that the up to isn't at the discretion of the school board. The up to is, if you have 50, you have to put in 50. If you had 25, you could put in only the 25.
I may have some of the answer to that.
Yeah,
Number one, the school retains up to their maximum of the fund balance. So anything that
2%,
they say
yeah.
that they're putting into their capital reserves from that fund balance,
Yeah.
I would say, and I'm saying this working in my situation, has to go. But if they have authority to withdraw from that, for example, they have heating funds
Yeah.
that have sat there for years.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to degrade that at all. It's good to have that aside, but it's $40,000 at least. If they had an emergency, they could withdraw those funds, depending on how that warrant article was written, and use it toward fuel, so they would have 40,000 that they could spread somewhere else that was needed.
It
for emergency.
reduced the fuel budget, and so anyway, backdoor is
That-
what you're
This is a
saying.
little different
I
though.
would say we wouldn't word it up to.
No,
And I think the plan really is not to necessarily take unreserved fund dollars, to actually go to voters and say, now that the debt's coming off, we need $100,000 to go to the equipment, The difference being, if we got to a level where our unreserved fund balance was where we all felt that it was healthy, and there was additional money going in, then we would. But I don't think we would say up to, we would have a set
But
number.
your amount right here is nothing. I mean, it's $1,000.
Right.
It's
But it won't be-
nothing.
it
But
won't
if
be
it
in the
was
future.
50,000
Right.
and you had a low amount in the unexpended fund balance or reserve at the end, and all of a sudden you need the money, but it just says up to 50,000, they're saying that they have to put the $50,000 in.
That the up to isn't at their discretion, is
Right.
up to is based on how much money is available to go in, right,
And it
Diane?
may be they're part of their fund balance rules.
It's not,
And-
it has nothing to do with
Just
the
the
2%.
I have never had
That's why we're
a
concerned.
spot
Right.
where I didn't have a flat amount, or the up to was a very minimal amount. It has to be voted on by the voters.
The amount going in has to be voted on by the voters, and you're also asking who has the authority to expend from that account once it's placed in there. I'm just saying, if we ever got into emergency and you started to ask for much more than 1,000, could you adjust it up?
I would ask the RA.
You-
I would
could
ask
you?
the RA, yes.
And when you're asking that, ask them why the school would be different.
And that was the reason why I questioned, I don't know if we should move on, but the number 34.
Yes, I know you had a question there. I
So
haven't got
that,
to it
I
yet.
think is easily rectified because we would set, it already has a limit of 50,000, because we don't need any more than 50,000. And your question is, can we set a limit on how much is taken annually? And the board said yes.
They did,
Yes, and I think you had suggested 10,000. We had talked internally, operationally, we thought that that was appropriate to get what we're trying to achieve. So I think Karen would write the warrant based on your recommendation.
see, so I was trying to, I'm sorry. I was trying to, so I was trying to prevent, I gave this wild scenario that what if one of his officers resigned and they did not hire someone, and there was $40,000 left in that line item, and the cap is 50,000, and let's say you only had 4,000 in the reserve account at that time, would all that 40,000 go to that? Because it's the same scenario as the school.
At this time, the selectmen could make that decision. We could put it on here as a suggestion at this time, but it would really be up to the selectmen to decide.
Well, I'm just
When they
saying
get-
that right now,
yeah.
there's nothing to prevent all of it going into that amount. But with the cap of the annual cap, there is, so good. Okay, so we addressed
We can
that.
put that in, that there will be a cap of no more than a certain amount.
Okay.
No, I like your questions. I love them. So don't ever stop.
Don't stop asking.
Don't stop.
Okay.
So do you want to vote on these, and do you want to make a recommendation that they be authorized at town meeting, or do you want to have,
I think if you want to build trust on it, I think I would have the town vote to put the money in, which you say has to happen anyway, and I would leave it to the town to vote to take the money out.
I do want to let you know that on this plan that we've developed for this equipment plan, that roughly will be, everything goes as planned, there'll be 1,000 put in per year up to 2023. In 2024, we'll do 2,000. 2025 will be 8,000, and then it will bump up, because by then we'll be caught up on our equipment and want to start building toward the
But that'll be
next.
voted on every year.
Yes.
So we're not like approving something for the next. Cool, thank you.
So,
Okay, so we feel comfortable, we want to vote on 31, 32, and 33 all together. And then the other question earlier too was, the selectmen was whether there should be 3 separate accounts or 1 individual account.
So we looked into that, and legal recommended not doing that. They said it's best to have 3 separate ones, because you could have one department rate,
Yeah, and I think that would build credibility also.
yeah, down the future.
We don't want Doug to have to arm wrestle Paul.
It's when the gun comes up that we
Are you suggesting that the 1,000 for each one of these comes from fund balance or from taxation?
Well, when we say that, I mean, we've been talking about maintaining the fund balance, so I think we should be drawing on the fund balance, even though it's a small amount, I think we should be drawing on it as little as possible
Right.
if we're gonna try to
So
stay
you're
on that
saying taxation?
taxation.
Yeah, to be raised and appropriated for taxation.
Do we
What do
feel
you guys-
comfortable, in voting on those three together?
Are you saying fund
I have to
balance?
admit, I
Well, it
don't
doesn't-
fully understand.
I don't fully understand it, but you guys are gonna do
We
three
need
separate,
it.
three separate accounts.
Yes.
Why don't you guys just do one account and then have somebody like, I don't know, like in charge that says like, if he needs a certain amount of money, then okay, we're gonna vote, give him that. If he needs this to fix a door, give him that, like, out of the same, like, one account.
So,
Cause everybody's married.
well, we did look into that, and that's something that, you know, potentially we could try to coordinate. We would just keep track of who's put in what. But our attorney raised the issue that, given the way towns work, you'll like say in 10 or 15 years, everybody's different, everybody forgets, you know, how the money got there. Or you'll pit, like, a public works department against a police department or a fire department, who are all trying to vie for those same funds, and drain the account and destroy the intention of the long-range planning.
Yeah, but aren't they only taking the bare minimum that they need? Or no, they're all gonna be like, I want this, I want that.
No, I mean,
That
just like,
determines the bare minimum.
yeah, so, you know,
I see what you're
let's say a fire truck, like a fire truck,
Right.
is needed to be replaced, which it is. But, I don't know, was it a fire truck can cost $1 million, and you have a $300,000 or $380,000 worth of public works equipment that's needed. The fire truck is gonna take precedent and throw off your mix. It's just, what they're saying, it's not good for the long-range stabilization of the tax rate, because you're gonna be just pitting one against the other. They had a better explanation than that, but
Yeah, but the thing, like, my thought is like, he's not gonna need equipment maybe for a while. He's gone like 10 years without needing anything, right? Well, not needing anything, without buying anything,
Without getting it.
without getting anything. Yeah, I get it, alright.
I'd say, look at your spreadsheet I just showed you.
Yeah.
So what on your point, what the concern is, so right now, because we put it off for 10 years, really not, we've been getting equipment, just not enough. We have this 3-year catch-up. Now, then after that, there's 2 pieces of equipment. Next year, there's 1. Next year, there's 1. Next year, there's 2. Then there's a couple of years where you don't need equipment.
Right.
But the same thing is going to happen. It's going to happen with other departments, but with the fire department in particular, they're very large pieces of equipment that hit like a huge slug. You know, I mean, like, here's $1 million piece of equipment. And what doing it this way, you're just keeping track of what each department has. It's preparing and earmarking for that future purchase. You can do the same thing by having one account, but they're just saying that, you know, you might not save the appropriate way if you do that.
That makes sense, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's really, and really our attorneys, I mean, I'm surprised you even commented that way, because it's kind of looking at the politics of it versus the actual practical management.
Maybe based on experience.
Based on experience.
Okay. So,
I'll bring it on.
is there a motion to consider Articles 31, 32, and 33 and to approve them all together? Is there a motion? Like it here? No? So, second.
I really still don't understand it, so I don't know, should I abstain or what should I do?
So,
Follow Diane's lead.
yeah, if,
Follow Diane's lead.
You can move it to be voted on, and then you can abstain if you want.
Okay, second.
Okay. So, our understanding for this year that from taxation, we will be approving $1,000 to go into each account, and that money can only be spent on an annual basis by the vote of the deliberative session and followed by town meeting vote.
So it's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. You can't go in without taxpayer approval, and it can't come out without taxpayer approval. So it'll have to be sold on an annual basis, and hopefully would be part of, you know, be it Paul or Doug or whatever, would say, this year we're doing X, Y, Z, and we got $52,000 in that fund, and we would like to apply X amount of money against the purchase of X piece of equipment.
Suddenly I got it.
Okay, we want to try to get things stabilized, so
Stable tax.
the
It's a savings
amount,
account.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
It's a savings account, that's all.
yeah.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me.
Okay? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jim, yes.
All three of them.
And Doug, just a side, there is a plan for a 10-wheeler dump truck, right?
Yes.
That's what we're gonna try one of those and see how
There's
it,
actually two in this version.
Two.
Two 10-wheelers and
but you would buy two at the same time?
that.
We would. You feel confident enough?
Yep, the two routes that we did, one
Okay.
Do we want to move on to the next page and go back to the
Well, whatever else Doug would be here for.
estimate contract? That's number 24.
And why is the ASME a 2-year contract and the SEA is a 3? Okay, but remember part of the deal was we were getting on
The EMS
Yes.
project
is tied.
has some to do with how long we went.
So the EMS project is a pilot project, and so the select board had voted to do us basically a 3-year trial of the EMS program, and this would line up with the EMS contract with the 3-year pilot project. If, for example, town decided to, go back to outside services, this would enable us to make the changes to personnel report.
You were all given expenditures or estimated expenditures on the ASFME tentative agreement. The first year, we have estimated it, we have to estimate it for 9 months. The first year is $23,839. Some of the items that were adjusted, we have estimated raise for the fire department is between 4 and 6%. We've got back from the union the annual certification bonus that was between 2 and 6%. So if you were a paramedic, you could get a bonus of 4% based on your annual salary or pay. If you were an EMT, you would get 2%. So you get, we've got that back in exchange for giving raises to the level of 4 to 6%. So each classification is broken down in more detail. So an AEMT will come in at a different level than a paramedic, firefighter paramedic will come in. So we're paying according to their skill set.
And do you have, are those rates here?
Those rates should have been in the email to you.
Did I mess up?
That's different.
Well, that's a breakdown
I
of,
probably didn't do the verbiage, I'm sorry. I just sent the attachments and
it's
to
okay.
that. I think I read that.
One other thing that the fire department gave up, as an effort to try to get this union contract passed and to give more on their end, they gave up a holiday benefit. when a firefighter works on a holiday, because their work schedule is 24 hours, they were getting 24 hours holiday pay. If you didn't work the holiday, you got 12 hours holiday pay. The firefighters gave up all of their extra 12-hour holiday pay when they worked, with the exception of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So there was some give on that side. There's a change in the call-in overtime cost. What is in the current contract is your first 3 hours call-in, if you're a firefighter, was paid at straight time. And you were paid a maximum of 3 hours, whether you were there 45 minutes or not.
The minimum.
The minimum 3 hours. Now, the first 2 hours are paid, or if this is approved, the first 2 hours are paid at straight time, regardless if you're there a half hour or not. And then the second call-in, the first hour of that is paid at straight time. So we feel there's a little bit of a gain, because there is a good chance they'll be called in a second time. And when they're called in a second time, if they're there an hour or less than an hour, this 1 hour is paid at straight time. So instead of paying a second time around, that hour and time and a half, we've gained a little bit on that end. One thing we did management decided was worth it, was having a cell phone stipend for the fire department employees, because we want them available when we call them. We need to be able to reach them, either by text or by phone. Most people have text or phones, cell phones. They are required to sign off, being responsible for their phone if it gets broke. Making sure that they have a phone with a phone number. It's going to be very similar to what the police department have. There's some of the first responders in the town. So there was an agreement as part of this, if it's approved at town meeting, to give them that benefit. There is a slight, very slight reduction on their part. They are going to, if this is approved, pay a little bit more for their health insurance premium. It's not a big jump, but it is a small jump on their health insurance premium. We're working that way. It is on the lower deductible insurance. We left the SOS plan where it was, but we had moved toward having the employee pay more on the contract with the lower deductible, the $250. We're trying to move them off that. Then disability insurance changes. We have moved to, instead of being at, and I think you all got copies of the contract, I have to find it in here. So I know we bumped it up from a certain number of days. Sorry, I should have it. What is it? It's the disability insurance. It's gone from the 4th day to the 10th day. So they need to be out of work, and they have to use their leave time up to the 10th day before disability insurance will kick in and cover that.
This is non-job related.
Non-job related. Job-related injuries are 3 days. That's by law. So, but this is disability insurance.
Yeah, but job related is going to be
Workers' comp.
workers' comp. But
Yeah.
will the disability also pay them if they're out on workers' comp?
They pay the difference between the 60% that workers' comp pays them and the 66% that disability insurance pays. I've only had one employee in almost 20 years ever go after that 6%. Never, none of the other employees ever bothered with it. I just had one. It made a difference of $20 a week while the person was out. A lot of paperwork for that.
I can imagine.
So I broke down here what the firefighter cost was for 9 months, $8,248. Then we go on to the highway department. There is a little give in the training expense. The wage that we negotiated was 4% increase. There is a phone stipend for 5 months of the year for all of the winter highway employees. They're all winter highway employees. The 2 employees that are considered foremen, one's an operation foreman, the other is a working foreman. They both will get phone stipends if this is approved all year long, so that they are available for emergencies. One focuses more on sewer emergencies, and the other one is more for other outside-related emergencies. There is a little give on the health insurance and disability benefits. Under transfer station, we have a 4% increase there. We have a cell phone stipend for 1 employee only. That is the person that responds to the alarm system at the transfer station. The manager is out of town, so this individual lives in town and responds to any alarms being set off at the transfer station. And the little give on the health insurance and disability insurance. So the highway department 9-month estimate is $11,672. Let's say 73. The transfer station is $3,918 for the 9 months of the year, totaling $23,839. Then if you look at the second page related to this, this is the second year cost. You have to pick up the first 3 months of the cost. There's 3 holidays that are affected with the union change that we didn't pick up at the first 9 months of the year, last 9 months of the year. So we were able to pick those up as a savings. So the total cost of the second year of the contract, which all 3 are 3% to 3.04% wage increase, is $33,978.51. First year of the contract, the cost for the 2-year agreement for the first year is .037.
And was there a sheet though that showed the hourly rates associated with the various positions?
There was.
There is somewhere. I think it's on the very back of the contract. So it is, actually.
Why are we still giving stipends for cell phones? Why aren't we buying the phones and giving them?
One reason is IRS rules about them. If we buy phones and pay for them, we have to monitor what they use that phone for, if they use it for personal use, and we're supposed to factor the taxes on that and have the employee pay for the taxes on that, the income taxes. It's a lot of work. I have to go through every person's bill.
I understand, but if he or the police chief use their phone in a defense attorney, what happens to his phone once it gets seized as evidence?
He can answer that.
First of all, there's never been a phone seized as evidence from a public employee in New Hampshire yet.
Yet. Yet.
But
because
they've been
defense-
saying that
because
for
we
years.
both know defense hasn't done it yet.
I know that, but they're not gonna take the phone. They're gonna do the same thing we did with computers. Somebody says, I want all your information on Karen in your computer. So we give them all the information. They don't come and seize my computer. We've gone through this process with the town.
It's
We've
gotta
had
be
hard
done.
drives seized, we've had them held. They've been forensically looked at, but we've never looked, not the hard drive, had a copy. We've never had the computers taken. And
No,
you could
but they
make
gotta
that
get
same
done.
argument for discovery for computers. We've never had a computer taken out of the police department.
No, it gets dumped.
It gets dumped and then reviewed
Right,
by council.
right. Meanwhile, he's out of the phone while that's being dumped.
For us, it was only half a day's inconvenience.
If it goes forensically, it can go to whoever, and if they're busy, it's
But it
gonna,
hasn't yet.
it can. Okay. Just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it's not going to.
Because he cooperated with the request. You know what I'm talking about? If he cooperated with the request, they're never gonna take his computer off. But if he doesn't cooperate with the request, the computer is gonna be taken off.
And they're right to know, it just hasn't happened.
I know, because you know.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I understand exactly what Mike is talking about, because that's one reason why you see a lot of people walking around with two different phones. It's cumbersome. But my argument's always been, if you're complying with the right to know request, your phone isn't going to take it. You provide them the information that you want. They have to prove that you're not providing them that information.
And the only way they can prove is getting the court order to find out.
But they have to show precedent. They haven't.
But the issue is how much additional work there is for you.
A huge amount of work.
And the cost.
And yeah, the cost, it could cost us more than what we're paying for a stipend, paying $50 a month stipend. A cell phone, if you have unlimited data, could cost you a lot more than that. And then you're responsible for the phone. Now, some of the phones are, mine's on the cheap end. Mine's $500. I paid for it, but some of them are $1,000, you know?
And it's the responsibility of the employee to make sure they have a functional phone. Otherwise, it'd be your responsibility, apparently, to go get home at 6 o'clock on Saturday night on employees.
Yeah. And if they run over their phone, that's their problem. If they run over our phone, we have to file an insurance claim if it's over $1,000, or we go out and buy another phone. It's a lot more detailed. We do have a couple people that have town cell phones. They choose to have two separate phones and carry two separate phones.
Who pays for this phone, Carol? Who pays
For
for the phone, for the cell phone?
the cell
town?
phone,
Yeah.
the employee, if they have their own cell phone and get a stipend,
Yeah.
they pay for the phone. If the town pays for the phone, and right now we only have one that has, we have the fire truck that has one, and then the fire department, fire chief has one. We would pay for the phone if we had to replace those.
Do you know the amount of money that the town spends for this cell phone and that? Plus,
Off the top of my head, new phones that
10,000 of that?
No, depends on what we get, and we usually get the cheapest we can get. I think we might have paid $50 for the
Okay.
last phone we
Thank you.
bought.
That's all.
So can the
It's a-
employee request a town phone if they don't want it
Yeah,
to be stipend?
yeah.
Okay.
And we can make a decision on whether we're gonna do that or not. Because they signed an agreement saying that they have their own phone and want this stipend.
We're at the witching hour.
I know we are. That's more witching hour. Cinderella, I'm losing my slipper right now. All I was gonna say, on this, you were talking about the rates at the end. I was looking at, what is it, the fire department, the highway department, and I thought, when do we, look around and see if our hourly rates are competitive?
I look at ads all the time on the municipal websites to find out. One of our truck drivers recently was hired at $14.05 an hour. That's step one. That is well
Too low.
below.
It's so low. I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, you know, I don't know, I do not know this, so pushback again. I do not know this, but I am like saying,
We can hire up to step 4.
Yeah, what do you think, Diane? Do you think that people are not paid enough?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, when I first looked at the transfer station employees, you know, those guys, to me, they're very dedicated, they're intelligent people and everything, and I see somebody's making $17.50 an hour or something like that, you know, and I thought, why are they paid so low? But I just look at step 1 for a patrol officer, and it's not much better. But, I don't know, maybe,
I don't know, so
Yeah.
I'm asking the question. I do not know.
I know as part of this process, we've looked at some of the wages and probably more in detail with the fire department portion. The public works, for anybody in this contract, we do have the ability to hire at a higher step if needed, up to step 4, which I don't see anybody's on that right now. So it gives us a little bit of leeway. You know, it is difficult because I have friends who, you know, drive trucks, and I know they get paid significantly more than,
They may not get all the benefits.
Why not we step 4?
what's that? Well, because that's what was negotiated.
That's part of the motivation, isn't it, they can help us with this.
The retirement, the
You
health
get benefits,
insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, those are all benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is, you know, there's overtime that's available, and some of them want. I think most of them understand in the winter that you're pretty much guaranteed overtime. So,
I know,
but,
however.
yeah.
I don't know, I do not know what the going rates are anywhere, but I'm just looking at that as how can you live on it? That's all I'm going on. I have no idea.
Just a comment, there are a lot of the job flyers I've seen come out that are better paying jobs are all in the south.
Yes.
they're all in the south?
South,
Southern New Hampshire, south of
okay,
March.
not like
Yeah.
Georgia South and.
No,
Southern.
southern New Hampshire.
Hanover,
Okay.
you know, Concord.
Yeah. That makes it really hard, you know, we gotta see these better paying jobs.
Yeah, okay, so,
South.
But, you know, on that note too, I know when Milton was on the board, the select board, he would work with us to conduct a wage analysis. And ours is due to be redone, so that we'll definitely consider that this year. I mean, granted, we can't adjust any wages within of a union employee outside of town vote.
I think on the flip side, on the school side, we're finding that the salary schedule for the paraprofessionals or the support staff, whichever term you want to use, is significantly low, even for the northern New Hampshire. And one of the comments, but their benefit package is exceedingly high and generous compared to many of the communities, and many of the communities even in the southern part of the state. So we have heard time and time again, Steve and I, over the summer, being on that, we go on committee, you cannot pay your mortgage payment with your health insurance. So, so that's kind of where I think I'm going with this. I do not know what is a good wage or isn't a good wage. I'm just looking at the whole there and saying, that's hard, even for out here, that's very difficult. So, I won't say anymore, because I don't know what to do about it.
In the schools, they should be in a situation where they're hurting themselves, that probably they'd be better off offering a higher wage scale and reducing their benefit package. That they could actually end up getting more and better people. But having said that, I mean, I'm obviously aware of a lot of private business wage packages or whatever, and there's a lot of private industry out there that would not support the town wage scale. The businesses would be out of business. I mean, it's a tough challenge. There's no doubt about it. And how you recruit people, keep people. I mean, it's not all the wage thing. There's some other value added, if you would, but it's a tough deal. And you know, I grew up in Berlin, New Hampshire, and you know, anybody in Berlin could go to work for the mill and make way more money, have way more vacation time, way more everything. We were fortunate that they didn't find the job stimulating enough, that they chose not to. But you know, to find good qualified people to work much harder and need to know much more to do their job and get paid less is an ongoing challenge.
We have a really good move across the board right now, and I mean, retention is a big deal for you. If you lose somebody, you lose a lot of their knowledge, whether it's sidewalk or.
Okay, so we're at 6 p.m. Where are we in the scope of things, and what
I
time?
can stay as long as you need me tonight.
Okay.
I do not have a rider. Made no promises to nobody.
Okay. Well, I guess what would we like to realistically accomplish tonight, and what would be our next phase for whatever we don't get done tonight?
Carry on. Carry on.
Do we want to try to get through these last few up to 40 and then take up the operating budget and future one, or do you have any, before you go, do you have any guidance on that?
Do you want to vote on the ask me before you leave?
No, there you go.
I can vote on that, I guess. I won't be under stress.
So,
Under stress.
so Andrew, I mean, and we've skipped over a couple too.
We
Yes.
actually back up top at Marcus Lake
Yeah.
in the budget.
Yeah. And what is our next likable, or likely, not likable too maybe, meeting date? And Diane, you think you're going to be available remotely?
Yeah, I could, but I mean, do as much as you can to get it done. I was just looking at Jim's. I know that if I leave, Jim does not have a voice. So, but I just wanted to see what he said on the operating budget. Okay, the operating budget is what number?
The operating budget is number 6.
And he had a note on that one.
Okay.
And everything else except for number 40, he had a yes on it for tonight. Because he outlined all the ones that he had a no vote, and that's the only one that we haven't voted on. That, okay, so, and all the rest after the ones in the blue, we have not voted on, and it would be a yes. The only one that he does not know about is number 40.
Okay.
But number 6 is a no.
Did he make any recommendations? Okay.
I think other than the list that he had sent previously, question, remember
And
you?
we did some of that.
Yeah, I thought we could throw all the questions.
We answered all of the questions,
Yeah.
I believe.
Okay.
And we did some of the budget changes he recommended.
Well, do you want to vote on, I mean, we've done presentations on the opera budget, I mean, on the operations, sorry. the
Operating budget.
Sorry. Do we want to go ahead and vote on that?
Number 6.
Number 6.
Now, do we want to vote on the contract first? I mean, that one is,
Yeah.
we can vote on that.
Okay, so on And we're talking both contract, or we're just talking about?
Just the last to me.
Okay, so number 24, is there a motion to consider number 24, the EFSCME union contract?
Question.
Yes.
Since what you just shared with us is a negotiation, right? Is there any, can one do anything other than simply approve it?
Or disapprove
You can support it or not support it. You're supporting the warrant article or not. The selectmen management team, which included one selectman, went into negotiations and worked through the negotiations to get to the level that it came to the selectmen to ratify and the union ratified.
And who's the union rep? A local person?
We have local employees that represent their groups.
We also have a professional negotiator that negotiates on their behalf, who represents similar departments.
And we have an attorney that
We
we
have an
use.
attorney that represents us.
I think, my point, where I'm at on this is there's so much effort that's gone into this already. Why would you do anything other than approve?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's been, that the percentage was higher than, the annual increase was higher. I mean, obviously, just had a discussion about, competitive wages or whatever else, but, so sometimes, there have been instances where the budget committee has, certainly been instances where we haven't approved it unanimously. There have been some situations where we disapproved it, and there certainly have been situations where the town voters disapproved and sent it back to negotiation. And there were some years, like last year, the year before, where it never got to us because the town and the union were not able to come to a consensus.
So this would be actually, from my previous experience, that we may think that the 4% is high for this one, but we've gone, what, 2 years?
This will be-
Without one. So they have not had a salary increase in 2 years.
Other than the annual step increases.
They don't get annual step increases.
No?
If there is not a renewed contract, if the voters don't approve a contract, they receive no increases.
Froze.
It's frozen. So they have not had,
So you don't move from step 3 to step 4?
you stay right where you're at. So as I can sense that maybe some will say even those parts of the contract salary schedules are a little bit low in the summer. But anyways, the 4% really is probably a semi-catch-up for those 2 years that, am I speaking incorrectly?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, semi-catch-up for the 2 years that they did not receive a salary increase. Because if the voters have to approve, it's not only the adjustment to a salary scale, the voters also have to prove that you can move on the salary scale. So we have not done that for 2 years because they could not come to an agreement on a contract. It's not that the voters disapproved, one just wasn't brought forward for us to approve. So they haven't received any salary increases. So, okay, enough said.
Okay.
Well, it's
All right, let's vote on it so I can
okay.
keep my husband happy.
Okay, so was there, was there a motion to vote on Article 24? So is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on 24? Okay. All those in favor of supporting 24, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Jim said yes. Okay. Do you want to take care of this?
Yeah.
Okay, there
The second part of this warrant
Thank you for
article
everything, and
is number
you.
25.
and good luck during your trip.
It's called special town meeting. So what happens if the voters vote down the union contract? This allows us to go ahead and have a second town meeting, if it's approved, in order to negotiate contract again without going another year.
Sounds good.
So this is the second piece to that warrant article. And it doesn't come, well, it does come with a little cost which has to be absorbed within the budget. It's about $1,400. Because we have to do more ballots and notice it and so on, so there is a little cost to it.
And it all usually happens in the middle of summer when nobody's thinking about it.
And I don't know of any time that I ever remember a second meeting.
Thank you.
But it's happened on the school side.
Thanks.
That's right.
Take care.
Sometimes it's been authorized, but then the meeting never happened.
So,
So anyway, it's basically, you leave it up to the voters whether they want a second bite at the apple if it doesn't pass the first time. That's what it really comes down to. So is there a motion to move Article 25 special town meeting? So a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next,
let's go to number 27, Conservation Commission. That dollar amount is $223 as of today. So instead of being $100, it's going to be $223, and it's leftover money from their budget that has to be put into their Conservation Commission funds.
yeah. And their annual budget is roughly 1,000 or 2,000?
About $2,300 a year.
Yeah. So, and obviously they don't spend much money, and this was started several years ago, basically say whatever they didn't spend out of their small budget, they were able to retain, because they do get to some bump years, like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but like the year that Walmart, came in or whatever, there was more involvement because of floodplain and other things they have, that they have to get involved in, so it allows them to build up a little bit of money. They don't have large expenditures every year, but every now and then you might have a year where there's more work involved in the last 5 or 10 years, and so if that's the case, they have enough money to handle it. Okay. Motion to support number 20, to bring 27 to the vote. So move a second.
Second.
Mike and John are dominating all these, okay. Any just further discussion on 27? All those in favor of 27, please say aye.
Aye.
Should we be focusing on things that Paul and Doug are here for?
Yeah. I believe Paul is here for the public, for number 34, Police Department Expendable Trust. Unexpended salary line, and I understood you wanted a limit to it, so I can add to the warrant article. It's already established. It was established last year with $1,000.
And so we don't know the amount yet, if there's funds left over at that line. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the $1,000
We'll know
right now
more.
is a placeholder.
Once I do the accruals or the modified
But
capital.
was the settlement though that it wouldn't be more than $10,000 to go in a given year,
That's right.
and there wouldn't be
More than 50.
more than 50 accumulated
Right.
over whatever period of time, never to exceed 50, and it was the selectmen's discretion to expect. Is that correct? So 10, 50, and selectmen. Does everybody follow that? That on an annual basis, not more than $10,000 would go into the fund, that the fund would never exceed $50,000, and that it would be up to the selectmen to expend money out of that fund.
Like if he needed a temporary officer, he'd have to go to the selectmen, they'd make a vote on it, and then come back.
This is for training money and for hours
for salary as well, but it's for a part-time officer. It's different. We don't really have a big part-time officer line to expend funds to recruit and get more part-time officers, so we felt this was a good way to approach it without increasing the budget. But if we needed, assuming an officer resigned and get done, we would just use that officer's funds that were unexpended during that year to apply towards the new officer. That's for full-time officer.
Yeah, makes sense. It just seems such a minimal amount of money, but I guess you don't want to give too much power to the chief where he can just, you know what I mean, just, yeah.
Nothing against Paul, but that, yes, that is part of the consideration.
Yeah.
It's similar to what we just talked about on the reserve funds. I mean, you know,
That's different to me, but to hire a temporary officer, it just seems more sensible that he can use his own discretion. If you're talking between 10 and 50,000, I'll hire this guy, use good judgment. But I guess if you want to go through the hassle of getting the selectmen involved and all that, that's fine too.
so that $1,000 could actually say,
It could say 4,000,
okay,
and it would be 4,000 coming from fund balance because it's whatever he's got left.
okay. So that figure will be whatever that figure is.
Just like the Conservation Commission, only this one's gonna have a limit on it.
Is this to address the issue that you were talking about where retired officers have come to you and said, you know, I'm available to work part-time and you got nothing to give them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now I have something to train them, equip them, and pay them.
It's growing slowly, but it will grow.
Okay, so I have a motion to consider Article 34, Police Department Expendable Trust Fund.
So
John, second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then I believe the chief's here for the SEA, which is number 22.
since Diana's gone and she was also the proxy for Jim, how are we?
I'm noting, she told us that what Jim voted on,
Okay.
and I'm noting the one for his possible not vote. Yeah, legal opinion.
So on the SEA contract, is there any, who wants to lay that out?
I-
Say you, Karen?
I will if that's all right with my boss.
Please do.
Just what Andrew wanted to do.
This one's easier to show on, there wasn't a huge amount of changes with their contract. There is a wage increase. The first year of the wage increase figures out to 4.7%. Last year, they did not have a contract. It didn't get brought forth to the budget committee or the voters. So we're on our second year. The other thing, they gave up a little bit on the health insurance change, just like the ASME did. There was a disability insurance change. One thing we did adjust is an education incentive. So those that carried bachelor, master's degree got a little bit of a bonus. One is $250, the other one is $500 a year. Very small amount, but because of the added skills that they bring, they got a little bit added to their overall wages.
And you're carrying on.
Yep. So this is a 3-year contract. The cost per the first year is 9 months, is $23,613. The second year is $34,785. And then the third year is $37,273. So the first year is a 4.7% increase, second year is 5.1, and third year is 5.1. We did find that some of our staff, or most of the staff, were very underpaid compared to other cities and towns out there.
And we've lost some officers because of
We
that,
have.
right?
We did change that the chief, town manager has authority to hire up or move the person up to 10% increase if they're promoted within from patrol officer to sergeant. So that was an additional change. They gave up 1% on their health insurance the first year, 0.5% the second, and 0.5% the third.
Meaning
For the higher
They have to pay some.
They have to
there.
pay a little bit more. And we're trying to move them to the, what's called the SOS plan, the higher deductible plan. We kept the rates for that the same.
So even though it seems that the increases are very nice, in a sense, they are already underpaid.
They were,
As you look at the whole.
yes. We were losing some officers. So I went over the numbers.
In addition to losing officers, this is an area where there's already increased demand. So, officers there's positions open all the time. And our officers know that, and the department knows that, their officers know that. They're always kind of being tempted in another direction. This is to help us get us closer to at least pay not being an issue or retention.
Another part of this warrant article is number 23 on here, the special town meeting. If you would vote them both together, it would take care of both of the warrant articles. That again is allowing the town to bring forth, if this is voted down at town meeting, would allow us to go back to negotiations and try to bring back something different. And bring it to another town meeting.
July 3rd, John.
July 3rd.
I won't be around for that.
Just make it nice.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, I was there again, I mean, it's interesting when you hear the national discussion about minimum wage. Obviously, it seems to be a little bit of a disconnect, but anyway.
Some people should be paid to stay home and not work.
A lot of people are.
That's good.
In Louisiana, I think it's 40%.
I've had some workers that I pay to stay home.
I think the food stamp figure in Louisiana is 40%.
The first year it's 4.7%, second year is 5.1, and the third year is 5.1. It's an average. If you look at this page,
I didn't get that page in.
I sent them. This is my breakdown. You can have this
Actually,
page.
Michael, I got two of them. I thought I had two.
Terry, did that come with the?
It was a separate page, but it was sent to Diane.
That's all I printed.
I'll give it to him. I have more. I can print more.
Mike, what's your email?
This is
What's your email?
right?
Yes.
Stevens,
This one.
Any further discussion or questions on 22 and 23.
And is it acceptable to vote on both of those at once?
Yes. Do I hear a motion, John?
Yes.
Is there a second? Dan and Shane, you guys are staying out of this.
I only talk when I think it's like, I don't like to hear that, just the sound of my voice.
Okay, any further discussion? Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of supporting both Articles 22, the SCA union contract, and Article 23, the special follow-up town meeting if necessary, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Where does that bring us next
Okay,
year?
the first page, what we have left is Partridge Lake, which is number 5, and then the 2020 proposed operating budget, that's number 6. Then on the second page of this, we have town's number 39, town-sponsored warrant article on Mount Washington Regional Airport. Number 40 through 54. I will tell you that as of today, we have not received all of the petitions for these warrant articles. People have submitted documentation to us, but they have not submitted their petitions yet.
Okay, so the first one, Partridge Lake, and John, did you want to speak to that one?
Well, I'm really pleased to know that Frank LaRossi and Andrew Dorset believe this is a town issue, not just a lake issue. So we still need to decide how we're going to inform the voters and that part of it. But the only question that I have is, you know, the money that comes from the state revolving fund is capped at 75,000. We have 85,000 here because we know there are incidental costs, but the Lake Association has committed to paying all of those incidental costs. So I'm just questioning why we needed to say 85 instead of 75.
So when the warrant article was approved, we could not spend any more than the 75 if we have a higher amount. So, for example, either drafting the warrant article, there'll be legal review, and then in submitting the town itself will be managing the grant funds. So there will likely be administrative costs associated with that. We would have outside grant contractor do the grant reportings and grant reimbursement requests. And so there's some costs associated with that. It's not $10,000. It's probably, you're probably looking at 1,000 or 2,000, but to be safe, so that we would end up in a situation where, you know, something had to happen and we couldn't do it because we didn't have the money. We could put the extra in that tent. So it's just even though the Lake Association would be, in some cases, maybe be paying directly, but there's multiple instances where we'll actually have to be paying the contractor or some other entity directly, and then request.
Then we reimburse.
Okay. And there's a comfort level between the town and the Partridge Lake Association as far as that money being available.
Yeah, they committed to us that they're, and I mean, this is really a three-way partnership. It's the state, the Partridge Lake Association.
Exactly. And the state has put Partridge Lake in position number 3 for all the water bodies that need, I mean, a lot of water bodies need attention, but they've given us a very high priority in terms of directing these funds to us.
And in the spirit of full disclosure, I own a piece of property on Partridge Lake too, so, you know, but Partridge Lake is an asset to the town. It's provided here, proved to be quite a tax base, if you would. And obviously, to maintain that tax base, you need to maintain the quality of the lake. And as this was originally proposed last year, or the year before by the Pirates Lake Association, I mean, it's a net zero to the town, or virtually a net zero, so it's not like, that's right, we're not asking, other than just the responsibility for handling it, and even having said that, John, there's still gonna be assistance from Pirates Lake Association in terms of moving the process forward, correct?
Correct. Well, I mean, we're gonna do whatever we need to do.
That's right, exactly, so it's like you're gonna be free labor, or at least a free resource to Andrew or whatever he needs for assistance to move things ahead.
It'd be good to have these guys as a partner.
Oh, yes.
And the reason that it has to go on the ballot is because the grant says it has to go on the ballot. It has to be, the town has to be the applicant, and the money has to be given to the town and spent through the town. And there'll be requirements that are set to make sure that the money is spent properly, just like there always is with grants. Maybe a big process for engineering and so on. And that's a state review.
And can you briefly tell us why it has to be a bond article?
In order to get back some of the funds from the state, similar to what we did with the sewer asset management. We had to do a bond with it to borrow the money, and then we get reimbursed once the project is complete.
So it requires a 60% vote?
Yeah.
And so the money that comes from the state isn't a flat grant. This is through a program that they call it loan forgiveness. So at first it has to be a loan, and then they forgive us.
Okay. So in the worst case scenario, if this were to fail, can it fall back to the original proposal of last year, where the Pirates Lake Association moves it forward?
If they paid for it on their own,
No, because
and the town wasn't involved at all?
I don't think we can. I don't think that the state would go for that at all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
well, John, what was the deal last year?
This was the
it
same
was,
thing.
this was the exact same thing. Yeah, it was just,
It didn't get the vote.
You had a majority, it didn't have the.
it had a majority, but we were like 6 votes short of the 60%.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, so it did not pass last year. I didn't actually realize that. Okay, so it's the same thing as last year, other than the town has agreed to be administratively more involved, whereas last year's proposal.
No, it's exactly the same.
No, it administratively and all of that is the same, but it's just that the select board has, well, Franco stated that he believes this is something that the town should really, what's the right word, get behind. Right.
Marshal their forces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be including it in our budget presentation for Grant North TV and see what else we can, whatever ways we can do that.
And the only other relevant comment is that, again, the Lake Association is going to pay the interest, any interest, from the time that this is approved, assuming it is approved, until the study is done by the engineering group or lake management consultant guy or whatever. The interest that accumulates on this loan, we're going to pay that too. So the town, so there is no tax impact.
So is there a motion to consider Article 5, Padres Lake Phosphate Reduction Study Design, CWSRF grant?
So moved.
Thank you, Shane. Second. Dan?
Second.
Would you like to abstain on this one?
I don't think, where it's a non-money, I don't think so, so I think,
You disclosed, you're good.
okay. No further questions, all those in favor of supporting Article 5, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good, thank you.
Okay, on the front page, again, we have the proposed operating budget, number 6.
Which is not in blue.
I know, I don't know what happened.
And why do I have written down that
Yeah.
we approved it last week?
Well, that is a question that has come up. It doesn't show up in Diane's minutes. And we were gonna watch the video to see if
not
it was.
this one.
No?
No.
Another one?
Yeah. No.
Well, Jim hadn't voted on it, and he's,
The one, I think the one that you're thinking of is the next one below, the transfer station.
we got that one.
Yeah.
That one was voted on.
But it's-
Well, actually, I didn't have that
Yeah,
one.
not here, I think that's what happened. is-
I have my sheet from last time, and I don't have any indication that we voted on.
On the operating budget,
The
I didn't have it.
transfer station, you do have that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I think that's what happened, that was your number.
Okay, so,
So the proposed budget is 9,195,491.
mhm.
The offsetting revenues or funds, $7,386,156.
Yeah.
The request from the taxpayers is $1,908,809.
It's been a long day.
35. The estimated tax impact is $2.824. If this isn't approved, then, and the voters vote for the default budget, the tax impact is 2.763.
And in that $7 million is the dam money, so to speak.
That's correct.
The,
$4,059,000.
is in that, which is why that number is so large.
The revenue.
Yeah.
So this is the line I'm looking at. Line 6.
4,053.
I know, you must have a wrong one.
The second number six. The second number six.
There's gonna be some.
But now I
Down into this budget.
If you look at the top.
Oh,
If you
well,
look at
one's
the
the
top-
default,
Right.
so if you decide not to vote on the proposed, you could vote on the default. You vote against
When you
it.
first started giving me the numbers, I was looking
Oh,
up top
okay.
and I'm going,
Okay. The second number 6.
Whatever, yeah.
$40,000. Or $60,000.
that one has a 40.
We are looking at some changes to at today's selectmen's meeting. There very well could be 70, at least 70,000 cut from the number in the budget.
And to put that in perspective, the difference between the 2019 and the 2020 approved budget was $154,259. So if we're taking 70 out, I mean, it's roughly half of that increase, so we'll be, in the $80,000, $90,000, I'm saying it right, Karen, tax impact.
Yes.
Total corporation tax rate is gonna be $80,000, $90,000.
Yes. So we are looking at pulling some numbers out of there.
Everybody feel comfortable with that?
Should we write down those numbers?
Well, I guess we're saying like it's only gonna get better.
We're not making it any, it will be less than what we have here for a number.
To give you an idea on tax impact, so I think for every $100,000 of expenditure is about 12.5 cents on the tax rate. So if you were taking 70, so that's, you can estimate somewhere between 7 and 10 cents less than what you see here. Something like that.
Yes.
So
I'm not counting, yes.
Yeah. You can answer for me, you know all the answers.
I saw her nodding her head, so I felt confident. I mean, the budget was very close to level funded in the first place, so this is gonna bring it a little closer to that. So is there a motion to consider Article 6, 2020 proposed budget?
so moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Jim, no vote on this one.
Yes, you did.
So it's gonna be 5-1.
4-1. Because he doesn't vote.
Oh, wait, no, I count Doug, I'm sorry.
Doug, did you go on this one?
Do we want to move to the rest of them on the back?
Yeah, what's the deal about the transfer station? Did we vote on that last
Yes.
week? Okay, that we agreed, okay. Which, I mean, that was just basically a housekeeping deal anyway. Okay, so then, on the back, which one are we starting with, Diane? Or Diane?
Well, my
Karen?
sister's name is Diane, and we
Okay,
look a lot
at least
alike.
I'm in the right family.
Number 39, there's our next one we need to look at.
Yeah,
Town-sponsored warrant article for Mount Washington Regional Airport.
and then we had 40, which is the new lottery one,
Right,
Oh.
and 36, we still are pulling some information
right?
on that.
And I had mentioned last week the possibility of voting on, well, let's say here, I'm voting on 41 through 54 as one, if unless anybody had any objections, or if there were any, if there was anything in any of that group that people wanted to discuss more in particular. What I said, I mean, you know, these numbers have been pretty consistent over several years, and at least my opinion for what it's worth is that, you know, most of these social service type ones, money is well spent to reduce pressure on our other town resources, so. Is there a motion to consider Articles 41 through 54 as one?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on voting on all of them together? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. So that leaves us with 40. What you mentioned 40 earlier, Andrew, is it kind of a housekeeping, state of New Hampshire?
Yes. And basically we have to, from what I'm told, we have to put it on the warrant for the voters to consider. It has to do with some gambling, sports betting locally. I think what this does is it enables, similar, a couple of years ago, it was a Keno, where you had to do it in order to make sure, you had to put it on the ballot in order to be eligible in government.
Fines.
Yeah, fines. But your voters didn't have to approve it. This is a similar.
Does everybody feel comfortable or equally uncomfortable with that explanation?
So we're gonna, it's for Keno?
No, it's similar to Keno.
Similar to Keno.
I like Keno, but I don't know what this other thing is here.
Well, I mean, sports betting has
Sports
become a big thing across the country that at one time was totally illegal other than Las Vegas, Nevada, but now appears to be happening most everywhere. Interesting enough, if you go like to England or whatever, it's, I won't say it's on every street corner, but I mean, it's, you know, sports in the United States, ever since the Black Sox scandal, has been big time against it, but we seem to have turned a corner. A lot of it is driven by fantasy football leagues and internet info and cell phone activity, I guess. I mean, as much as I know about it, but I know there seems to be a bit of a wave of approval, so New Hampshire seems like they're in the same way.
I could read this letter to you that we just got last week, or I just got last
Would
week.
you like me to read it?
Yeah,
so you don't have
actually,
to-
yeah, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sent to the select board. As you may be aware, House Bill 480 was recently signed into law legalizing sports betting in New Hampshire. The Lottery Commission's Division of Sports Wagering will conduct and regulate sports betting in the state, which is allowed through various channels, including up to 10 sport book retail locations. We anticipate launching sport betting platforms in early 2020 following the selection process for online vendors and retailers. While we cannot predict if the physical sports books will be standalone or co-located within other commercial businesses. We do expect retail locations in high population areas and towns on our state's borders, but they will only be permitted in municipalities that have voted to allow it. In a process identical to that allowing Keno, cities have the option to put the question to voters whether to permit the operation of sport book retail locations within the municipality. Given the launch schedule and the anticipated demand by players, I respectfully recommend the select board place the bill on the ballot for voters to decide this fall. This does not mean that a business will be located in your town, but this suggestion is being made so that if a retailer is identified as suitable, they can be considered. The local option section of House Bill 480 is enclosed for your reference. My staff is standing by to answer any questions, and we'll do our best to attend an upcoming select board meeting at your request. Charles McIntyre, Executive Director of the Lottery.
Again, we have copies of the statutes too.
So is this no harm, no foul, no pun intended?
Essentially, what we're voting on is whether we want to allow our retail operation for sports betting in Littleton.
Should the opportunity arise.
No.
Other than that, you have to go to your bookie.
That's gonna put the bookie out of business.
Well, that's right.
We don't wanna do that.
You know, they're, just anecdotally.
Go ahead, John, go ahead.
Erzberger says that the guy that lived in his camp before he bought it was a bookie. And Dave found something like 25,000 or 125,000 or some really significant amount of cash, and the guy had forgotten about and left behind.
Makes for one hell of a good story.
Yeah.
How's this gonna help Littleton?
They pay taxes, I guess.
But doesn't the money go to the state of New Hampshire lottery?
It's
All right,
supposed
here
to
we
go
go.
for education.
I know, it's supposed to.
How does the new law regarding sports wagering affect municipalities? Municipalities must vote, you know, actually, I'm gonna pass that question right there, it says on the Q&A.
Municipalities must vote on whether to permit the operation of sports book retail locations within the city or town. If a municipality chooses not to put the question to voters, or if the question does not pass a vote, a retail sports book will not be permitted in that city or town. In a town, the question of allowing a physical sports book may be placed on the warrant for the annual town meeting and shall be voted on by ballot.
If they're getting money though.
If a majority of those voting on the question vote in the affirmative, retail sports books may be operated within the town.
So the money most likely will get distributed the same way that current lottery money gets distributed. It's just an add to.
And where does the money go? The proceeds received by the commission from sports wagering less the administrative costs of the commission, prizes paid, and payments for problem gambling services shall be deposited in the education trust fund.
You know, they are exploiting the kids again. Saying this for the kids, right? Oh, man.
Okay. So your opinion, Andrew, is that you're being told that it needs to be put on the ballot?
That's what I was told today, but I just heard May.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if we do not put it on the ballot, then there's no opportunity to have that. Does this become a moral issue?
Yeah.
I think so. Everybody votes their own options.
In a time I'm going to tell you about Leo's tickets. I'll save that for another one. Is Charles McIntyre in relation to that former Senator McIntyre?
probably how we got the commission. If this is something that's going to go forward, and we'll talk to the board about having them come to a presentation for the public hearing. There's a required public hearing. The dates that are set for the public hearing, we have to have a vote as to whether or not to put this on the ballot before the public hearing. The way that the law reads, you can't have the public hearing more than 30 days away from the town vote. But we have to have the ballot set by January 14th. So there's a disconnect there, but I'm not sure if the legislature considered that.
Okay, so Andrew, do you want to get, it'll obviously be fairly simple then, you want to just get a little clarification on that before we vote on it?
The shall or
The 40?
the shall versus may?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. So it won't take much time. Andrew. So is the only other thing the,
Mount Washington Regional Airport.
yeah,
We will need to probably meet again because we've got the Riverfront Commons land purchase. We hopefully will have something more on the Opera House lease. Number 36. And you'll want to talk again about 40. So the only other one left is number 39.
You remember the discussion on the airport, and we did have the folks come and chat about that. To frame that issue, and I'm full disclosure, I've always been a supporter of it, dating back to Bert Enoson's initial involvement for the town as a selectman. The main thrust, I think, of the last presentation was that an airport today is considered by potential businesses as being the same thing as having a highway department, police department, fire department. You just need to have one to accommodate, business needs of any size. The downside, the argument over the past years has been, and continues to be, I think rightly so, is that they should be getting more support from more of the communities. I mean, Franconia that seems to support most everything, and why they aren't in it, I don't know. And Twin Mountain, obviously, who has them on Washington Hotel, why they aren't in it. And it would, and I think in Twin Mountain's case, if I remember their numbers, it'd be pretty small numbers based on population in terms of what they would have to be paying to participate. So, I think that's been the pushback in the recent years, is that, why aren't more towns in it? And I think if more towns that were in it, Littleton would feel better about it. But having said that, the $6,000 something that they're asking for us is a relatively small number for the value that airport presents to us.
I think the Rodenbeck letter is what made me think, yeah, we got to support this.
Oh, yeah. And and they've, I wouldn't say they've come out of nowhere, so to speak, but they've been in town for a long time. They've been a presence in the logging business for a lot of years. But the fact that they came to Littleton and have done quite well here, and then that they expanded to Grofton, where they have a second plant, I mean, it certainly shows a pretty significant commitment to the area. So
the voters turned it down last year.
yeah,
Correct.
and turned it down. But I think the vote of the budget committee was against it, and I think the vote of the selectmen.
No, they were for
I
it.
thought it was for it.
Well, I think financially, the airport will be doing all right because, what they said, the National Guard is supposed to have a facility there that will enable them to sell fuel to the general public or to the aviation public, and they'll be able to generate significant funds to supplement the match money that they might need to get federal funds. So I think, without Littleton's per capita support, the airport will be doing just fine going forward. So, it's always been the philosophy of New Hampshire to have funding raised by user fees, and I think they should continue to go along that line to generate the funds. And as far as the Rhoda-Beck letter, I think what they were stating in that letter was that they hope to use the airport, but looking forward, but they haven't used it in the past. And so I think that's as well. So those are my thoughts on this. It's not a whole lot of money, but I think we do have increasing fund requests from nonprofits that would be so. I think I'm going to continue and support the voters vote last year and support this.
I'm not sure to what degree, but I guess I sense that as they present themselves, if you would, to the FAA or whatever, that I think the more member towns that they have, I think that gives them a little extra oomph. I mean, I'm not trying to overstate that, but I mean, at least that's something I've kind of sensed in it. I still defer to Bert, but that's going way back when, and obviously Dan's comments are valid too, but that's...
Well, I think the most valid one is that the user should pay for it.
Right, that's what I think.
I think, Dan touched on this a little bit, was part of their federal money that comes from, I think it either comes from jet fuel sales or from airline tickets. I forget what the source was, but some FAA grant money is directly tied to the amount that they raise from community. So there has to be
That whole deal.
a community grant match. They have been talking about that. The Air National Guard, when I spoke to Wendy about that, she said there were discussions to do some sort of a lease, but it sounded like the initial proposal was basically, you're going to take us for free. And, that doesn't really going to support the user fees concept, but it would increase probably some kind of traffic and activity, but I'm not sure when or if that deal's going to be done.
Part of the problem there is that there's nobody permanently there, right? So planes can come in and leave and whatever without anybody.
Even knowing they can?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Although I think there again, that's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy or a two-edged sword, if you would, that, if they can grow, then they can get to a point where they're more likely to have somebody on staff, or at least the percentage of the time that you'd have somebody there would be more often than what it is now.
Yeah, I think, I went and visited the airport and checked out, what they had for amenities, and there was this discussion where I know, like Dave Rimsberger had worked with them. They're really at this point where they're on a cusp. They either can increase their infrastructure that will then enable different types of planes to fly in, or they can kind of try to keep it stable. And I don't know that stability, the rule of entropy, if you keep the same amount of energy going into something, it actually declines and goes into chaos versus, growing at that level. But anyways, they're at a point now where if they put in hangars and they, actually have a plan for growth, they can grow. But if they don't, they won't. So, but that's on their side.
I thought they couldn't extend it.
Well, beyond that, there's, for example, there's some very expensive aircraft that fly in. There was an individual who, I forget what type of plane it is, but it's a Ferrari of airplanes. Yeah, it costs, I think it's about $8,000 an hour to run this thing. And he wanted to come up with his whole family, so he comes up to Mount Washington. He could have kept his plane in a hangar there, and that would generate some significant revenue. But because they don't have a hangar that could suit that, the plane actually flew back to Laconia and stayed there for a week while in there. But I guess there's a lot of things. That family did come to Littleton, and you can imagine if they can afford that kind of a plane, how much they spent while they were here. It's definitely more than $6,000. But it's just an example of where, we kind of have to look at a cost benefit of, some growth.
And I think one of the other things too, I think it had to do with the jet fuel, was it has to do with how much fuel planes, the ability to land and take off has to do with how heavy the plane is. And I think if they had jet fuel available there, that there's some flexibility in terms of like somebody wouldn't have to fly in with a full tank of gas, of jet fuel, in anticipation of leaving if they knew they could buy fuel when they got there. And I don't know enough about it, but it has to do with, you know, the tarmac and the impact and whatever. But there was some piece to that. I don't remember the exact details, but I think having jet fuel there gave more flexibility to people coming in and out.
So what's happened in the past 10 years? And that'll tell us like an idea what's gonna happen in the future. So was it, anything happened over there in the last 10 years
I
significant?
think a year ago they did a significant tarmac. They applied some kind of a treatment to the tarmac that actually softened it up, and then another one to resurface and harden it. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it was a really significant undertaking.
I mean like the amount of people that use it,
See,
like
that's the
the
thing.
last, like
Right.
10 years, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Difficult thing is that it's voluntary reporting. I think they talked about putting in a tail camera so they could actually see, you know, who's landing and who's taking off from there. But it's right now a voluntary signing.
That woman who was here said that she spends about 20 hours, volunteer hours a week on the effort.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
one of those things.
bookkeeping or whatever.
The one thing is if you couldn't afford a plane, just give the money, give $6,200 out of your pocket, give 10 grand. But anybody that can afford one of those planes, they're multimillionaires. But you guys are saying that the town of Littleton has to support it so they can get other funding from like other government agencies that say, okay, these people are all for it, they're helping it out.
I mean, it's the same thing as, well, so many other things that we have, you know, whether you're talking about the money we're gonna get for the road park or whatever, that, you know, there's a lot of funding available, but the government wants to see that there's some local interest and support for this. They don't wanna just be totally throwing the money at it, they want you to have a little skin in the game, and with them, the more support they can show from more area towns, the larger footprint they have, the more likely they are to get money. And I'm sure if Littleton's not on there and somebody looks at it and say, well, what happened there? And somebody's gonna give them some story about why Littleton won't support it.
And I don't know if we can document it, but we believe that people who would fly into the Mount Washington Regional Airport and go to one of the nice hotels would also come to Littleton and spend some money here.
Yeah, I've had some conversations, it's I think a very true statement, and I think that there's circumstantial evidence to back that up from having conversations with people who are there. One of the things that I've talked to them about, because I think this has been a contention for not just last year, but the year before, was the ability for the airport to do some kind of higher level of figuring that out. So there is a software package that I'm using right now that has a additional capability, and I've had the airport talk to them about it's called a GPS study, and basically they can, with the software package, create a geofence, you know, they circle around the airport, and then
Everybody comes in and out of that fence.
whenever you go into that fence, you're pinged, and then it will actually show where money is spent, where they're from, what kind of consumer they are, how much, you know, what all their preferences are, and they can do some tracking and stuff. It's not cheap. I think it's around $15,000 to do a one-year study. But it's instantaneous. As soon as you trigger it, they've already collected the data for the previous year, and that's just made available. I presented them with that. I don't think they have the funds to do it, but it's a way to figure out who's coming in and out and where they're spending it. Littleton is the, you know, as you hear, and you can talk to anybody in the surrounding community, Littleton really is the downtown of this whole northern area. If somebody goes to the Mount Washington, more than likely they're spending a day here. There's a reason why there's shops on Main Street that can support $500 boots or $200 jeans. It's not, you know, it's not all of us up here. It's a lot of these visitors coming.
My wife didn't get any for Christmas.
Yeah, right.
No, that's right. So anyway, it's, you know, I mean, obviously we'd like it then to be more quantitative, qualitative, whatever, but I guess, and having said that, I mean, the numbers have gotten better over the presentation has been more cohesive over the last 2 or 3 years than it had been previously. I mean, they are at least trying to pull numbers together, trying to at least take whatever opportunity they have, to interview people where, like you mentioned in some plans, where'd you come from, where you going, what do you plan on doing while you're here, so at least that, they have some sense of, I'm going to the Appalachian Mountain. So, anyway, do we want to vote on that? We want to think about that a little bit? And
I think we should vote on it.
okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion to vote on Article 39, town-sponsored warrant article, whitewashing the regional airport.
So moved.
So, a second? Second. Second by Michael. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
We go down in flames, no pun intended.
You're good.
3-1, negative.
Got it.
2 if you count Jim,
Yeah.
4.
Jim voted no.
He voted yes, and 3 no's.
And we did not get a vote from Diane.
No.
Are we done for the night?
42 to 54, huh?
We did those. You voted yes.
You did them as a group.
You moved it and seconded it.
It was 5 yeses. So the only ones left on here is number 36, the Opera House lease.
You're right.
Number 40, the New Hampshire Lottery,
Yeah,
HB 480,
yeah.
and the River Commons Lane purchase,
26.
number 26.
Those are the only 3 left to do.
Unless somebody gets a petition warrant article in between now and the time you meet, there won't be any others that you need.
And some of these petition ones, if they don't get them in, won't end up on there
Right,
anyway.
right.
Okay.
So we're not ready to vote on 26 then?
Well, that's where we're going to try to get a little bit more information, if you wanted, from,
Seems like a no-brainer though.
well, as it always, Diane's valid point, because I mean, the thing still is at the end, you look at what the tax increase is going to be, and obviously when she says, well, of the 80-some cents we're looking at, that's a third of it, which, it's hard to, but, I agree, we've made that large commitment to that part of town. I think it's come a long way. I think this is the next big step in the right direction. It opens it up to many possibilities, even though we may not end it with a pavilion, but, anyway. Yeah, well, so anyway, I'm not saying myself one way or the other. I mean, if you'd like to vote on it tonight, I'm more than happy to call it to a vote.
I think it's a good deal.
Okay, well, would somebody want to make a motion that we vote on Article 26, Riverfront Commons land purchase?
I make a motion.
Seconded by Shane. Any further discussion? All those in favor of supporting Article 26, please say aye.
Aye.
Michael? That's an aye, okay.
Right, Diane?
No, but like Diane says, I mean, to some degree, it's her job to push back. I mean, she has great historical knowledge of this stuff, and she's not just looking at it in terms of the value of the project. She's just saying of everything you're asking for, this one thing is a third of it. Yeah.
And I'll say, like, we've been pushing like this, like the total town valuation. We're going to continue to push really hard next year to continue to grow that, so that.
Even though we don't know what that number is this year?
Well,
I want this year's number before we talk about next year's number.
It'll change.
I mean, that is a number that
I know that.
we used to have more, well, we had it with greater certainty. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Okay, so when are you going to get in touch with us when you would like to meet again?
Well, right now, what is your next Tuesday look like?
When is our school meeting? Is it the 8th? Is that right? Do I remember? Have to rely on Diane so much for this. Let's see here, where are we? First,
I like Thursday, it's,
I'm gonna be gone, so
when are you going?
I'm gone for 11, 12 days to the Caribbean, so,
When are you leaving?
Sunday,
Which Sunday?
the 5th. Hopefully nobody robs me, you know. Camera off, you
No,
know?
no, no. Yeah, okay, so you're gone that whole week anyway.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks.
Is the school meeting the 8th?
I think so, yeah.
That's-
7th or 8th, one of those.
Yeah,
So,
we better get confirmation on that.
The last day to post the warrant articles due is 14th, is that correct, Karen?
The 14th is the last day that people can submit a petition warrant article.
What's the last day,
I have to post the budget and warrants on the 27th, but we need,
When does the board vote, the select
we
board?
really need to get the votes.
January 8th.
At
4:30.
4:30.
Yeah.
Everybody get that?
As-
But,
For the budget hearing.
Michael, any chance you would be able to be there?
I will try.
1/8, 4:30. John, you all set on that though?
1/8,
On 1/8 at 4:30 in the SAU
okay?
building.
Yep.
So Shane, you're a definite no. Dan, you're a
Yes,
definite
I'll be
yes.
there, yeah.
Okay. And John.
Be doing thatch roofs, right.
Which one?
Thatch roofs.
Oh, yes.
In the Caribbean.
That's right.
Everybody go?
So are you meeting the
No,
7th?
I'm going down there.
Dan's it's the 8th.
It's the 8th. No, but what about the rest of the town? All you have is
2.
2.
Yeah, well, it's whenever you tell us, basically, that you'd like us to,
Well, if we want to do the 14th, will be after anyone submitting their petition warrant articles. Then you'll know. That may knock some of those off too.
okay, so what day are we suggesting then?
So there's
Tuesday the 14th.
Yeah, I have
Michael,
meetings.
that work?
Thursday the 16th, sounds better.
Thursday the 16th
Does that work?
works for me.
And then we'll have the select board and vote on these
So Thursday the 16th, and are we talking, where are we gonna do it?
Time and where.
Yeah.
I don't. 4 p.m.
Where do you like that, do you guys like that, Opera House or there?
Well, I mean, it should not be a long meeting, right?
Doesn't the town have preference down here?
Well, the heat's kept on in the Opera House.
I was wondering what was going on here. They're trying to tell us something, John.
Yeah.
So Thursday the 16th?
Okay, so Thursday the 16th, 4 p.m. Opera House.
We'll let you know if it's not available.
And we'll try to get you a copy of anything pertaining to 40 or to 36, the Opera House lease or the,
And you're gonna disinvite John.
Yes. Yes, I will. And so the Opera House lease involves a third party. Do we want that third party to be able to answer questions? I think it might be useful. It will be longer though.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, so you'll confirm the Opera House for the 16th, and we're all set for the school for the 8th.
Do you want to do that?
yeah, the school, you know, 4:30?
Who said four?
4.
And Michael, are you
Yeah.
available on the 8th or not on the 8th?
I'll
We're working on it.
see if I can
Finagle?
move some hours.
Okay, if you could.
I'm freezing.
It's just not feeling bad.
I just put this into my calendar and I put Opera House and it came up Littleton Opera House, 2 Union Street, and it shows a picture of it.
That's right.
Then you should be able to buy it, okay?
Pretty good technology.
I want to thank you all
Yes.
for being patient
Wow.
and understanding and allowing me to leave early if needed.
Yeah, we appreciate your information for sure, Karen. It's always appreciated. And obviously, I want to thank the budget committee too. I mean, this is an important process, and I think a lot of the town appreciates it. Not everybody, but a lot of the town does, that we spend the time going through this, because, you know, when a lot of people, when they go to vote, if the budget committee supports it or opposes it, the case may be, it does carry a fair amount of weight, so.
Unless they hear the facts,
Yes, right.
if they watch the news.
And if you can't make the meeting, it's a good place to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, well, I thank you all very much again, and we'll see you next week. Shane, we'll be thinking about you.
Yes.
What island in the Caribbean, Shane?
I wanna know like 5 or 6.